Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes are sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Or just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. There's a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack's at Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. A cupcake sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends, and happy Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, July 21st, 2026, and we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We have Grant Smith Ellis here today. So many of you have asked for this. You have so many questions for him, and I ask that you just keep those until the end, and we'll get there. We'll get there. We got a long way to go, just like Grant had a long way to go in changing over from the Karen Reed is guilty to the Karen Reed is not guilty side, and we're going to learn all about it and so much more. I can't wait for you to meet him. But in any event, let's do today's motivational quote of the day for Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. And it is this. Tom Peters said, "Leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders." Leaders don't create more followers, they create more leaders. I think that's a good one for today. I present to you journalist, recent law school grad, son of Wendy Murphy. Ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready back there. Can you hear me, Grant? Come on in. Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Are we good?
I can. I was listening to your motivational quote.
Oh, it's a good one, right?
I liked it a lot.
Leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. You've been doing this journalism thing for a long time, right? Exposing corruption in other areas, not just the Massachusetts State Police. Tell us a little bit how you got involved, a little bit about your background, whatever you want to share, and let the people in the chat who don't know anything about you learn a little bit about you.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. Shout out to all the cupcakes. I'm grateful to be here. I went to public high school, really into mock trial. Actually turned down going to a very high level private feeder school, and then beat him in mock trial with the public school. It was hilarious. I went to Boston College as an undergrad. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I lost a lot of weight my freshman year. I don't know, I was finding myself. I wanted to do political science, so I did that. Read Kessler's Darkness at Noon, and I was like, oh, I hate the damn commies. So I thought I would go into politics and hunt commies in the trade unions. But then, got a little bored with that, got into philosophy, really started reading like John Rawls and Jürgen Habermas. So then I was like, oh, I should go to graduate school in political philosophy because I like the Jesuits. So I did. I became a third-generation critical theorist in the tradition of Adorno and Horkheimer, then Habermas, then my professor, then me. Read a lot of John Rawls, got kind of mad at Rawls because he suggested that the Supreme Court in the U.S. is the exemplar of public reason. And I was like, wait a minute. I read Gideon v. Wainwright. The layman can't understand the legal process at its most basic level. That's not true, John Rawls. Public discourse is the actual exemplar of public reason. And all you really needed to do was develop a quantitative methodology to examine the cogency of that discourse in the context of the legitimacy of liberal republics. So I, in 2011 and 12, was a very early adopter of natural language processing and machine learning in the context of applied discourse theory. And I created a methodology to use like the back-end APIs of social media networks to populate word clouds based on like a set of years, compare the word clouds with what the congressional record from that state was during those years, overlap them in a Venn diagram, indicator of political legitimacy. So I finished grad school, got a little sick before I got my master's, spent a little time while I was sick recovering, went back into the world about 2017 doing journalism, whereupon I helped set up the regulatory structure related to adult and medical use in this state. The agency got a little corrupt, to put it lightly. Two of the commissioners manipulated me into planting questions at press conferences, which were then used to take out the chair on a pretextual basis. I found out
this is meant for medical cannabis, right? Medical marijuana. Okay, go on.
And so I found out those two commissioners lied to me, and then I spent 3 years making sure they didn't finish their terms. And then the legislature completely reformed the agency following in-depth investigations by the OIG and auditor. And then I found this case.
Okay, your brain moves very, very quickly. Very quickly.
Yeah, I always got to watch. I always got to look at it.
Most of the stuff that you just said, I have no idea what you're talking about because it's above my head, just like it's above so many other people's heads. Like you're at a level of intelligence that I think a lot of people don't even understand. And you have said publicly, and we talked a little bit backstage, that you're on the spectrum and that you weren't even diagnosed until you were an adult, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've always been, I don't know, like this. When I was 11, I was reading Black Mass. Then I went over to Dick Layer's house and he signed it for me. And I was like reading Peter Irons, at like 12, and a lot of like Supreme Court decisions. So I didn't know why. I just thought everyone was like this. And so when I was an adult, when I got diagnosed, I realized I have very high analytical intelligence, but my emotional intelligence is weak. And then my executive function, like fine motor skills, is weak. And so I had to realize, like, it's much like Robert McNamara's Fog of War. You have to know what you know. You have to know what you don't know. And there are some things that you don't know. And to have like a comprehensive functioning, like, role in political affairs, you have to know your weaknesses. So I just worked on like understanding my areas of weaknesses, and I became harder to manipulate. And that's when I really started thriving.
Yeah, I think absolutely. That's what you're telling me, is that when you had this whole experience with the commission, right, and how they manipulated you into doing certain things, I feel like that carried over into perhaps you being manipulated in, what we've been discussing here since 2024 for 2.5 years, the murder trial of Karen Read. Tell us a little bit how you got interested in Karen Read's case and your path between then and now, the journey, as it were.
It was interesting. I was on X in the summer of 2023. I think I was just like covering, Cannabis Control Commission stuff. And this guy who's now passed away, God rest his soul. He wasn't the nice man when he was alive, but God rest his soul anyway. Brian Riccio posted a bunch of videos, in particular of journalist Aidan Turtleboy Carney with a bullhorn asking questions to these people at what I thought was a church. It was actually the Dedham Library behind Norfolk Superior Court. And that's all I was initially trying to figure out. Why is Brian Riccio mad at Turtleboy? And why is Turtleboy, who I didn't really know anything about, I thought he like did FOIAs to local like city councils, why is he with a bullhorn outside a courthouse? So that was my initial 2 questions. And by December of 2023, I didn't even know what was going on with Karen's case. I was still figuring it out, but I was in the courtroom for some of Aidan's first court appearances. And within like 3 months, I was immediately, by like February of 2024, approached by none other than Kate Peter herself, who tried to like meet up with me in a Chick-fil-A parking lot, and we can talk about what happened there. And then everything went from there. I thought the Cannabis Control Commission was intense politicking. That was Bush League compared to what the op was that was surrounding Aidan and Karen Read. That was wild.
One sec. Who is Brian Riccio, for those people who don't know who Brian Riccio was? Who was Brian Riccio? What was his deal? Was he a
He was
officer?
so yeah. He had kidney failure. His brother worked for Apple or something, and he was like in local like radio. I think he knew the Young Jerks at one point, and he had kidney failure, and he was dying in Revere, and he was really mad at Turtle Boy. Like he hated, like outside of Kate Peter, Brian Riccio may have been like the person who hated Turtle Boy the most in the entire world. And that's who Brian Riccio was towards the end of his life.
So he was just posting videos of Aiden doing this and not in a good way.
Correct.
Like he was anti-Turtle Boy.
Yeah, he was like, even right as Kate Peter was starting to get involved in the summer of 2023, Riccio was right there. Those two were like riding hard together on this op.
What do you think Kate Peters' beef is in all of this? Aside from it being personal, I mean, it is personal. There's nobody who hates Aiden Carney more than Kate Peter.
In the professional intelligence world, I've heard they look for 4 things when recruiting an asset: disaffected former employee, drive for money, mental instability, and ideology. In the private intelligence world, like Marty Kraft's firm or Brian Albert's private intelligence firm, okay, Kate Peters is exactly who you'd want if you wanted to violate the 4th Amendment, plant people in Aiden Carney's life and spy on him, and then launder evidence to a police officer and compromise grand juries and get indictments that are completely illegitimate. You would do it through a private intelligence firm and the person who has the best psychological understanding of the target of the operation.
Tell me about Marty Kraft and about
Marty
his
Kraft was
PI agency.
He was a former Boston police officer who I've seen a picture of John O'Keefe with him back in the day. So he knew John. And he, as far as I understand, when Karen Reed went to Tom Beatty's house in February of 2022, Marty Kraft was watching her.
February 2022, Karen goes to Tom Beatty's house. Tell us also why Tom Beatty was involved in this and what his role in this is, or his daughter's role in this, right? If any.
Tom Beatty, so you have to go back to like 2021. Tom Beatty and his wife were in a pretty ugly family court case, and these documents are on the public record. In that case, Tom Beatty's wife alleged that a couple named the Currans, okay, this is important, you'll come to find out.
Yeah, the Currans were involved. They testified at the trial.
Yeah, and they were also at John's house on January 15, 2022, before the Pats game.
That with Brian Higgins, the one where Brian Higgins broke the PlayStation controller?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So in 2021, the Currans, the adult in particular, the male adult, is accused of sending videos and drinking with a child like 36 years younger than him. That child is a female who is the daughter of Tommy. So then in the fall and winter of 2022, or fall of 2021, January of 2022, the Currans are randomly at John O'Keefe's house, passed out on a couch. How do I know this? Because Karen sent a picture of Higgins to them, passed out under a blanket on a couch.
Right.
And yeah, so that's a little odd. And then Tom Beatty's, I believe, daughter knows Colin Albert. So there was somebody made a call to Tom Beatty at like whatever 2 a.m. We have to check the timestamp. I'm good, but I'm not that good. And so Karen, I don't know what Karen wanted to find out from Tom Beatty. He must have been sympathetic to her. She went to talk to him, and they were watching her that early, February of 2022.
Well, sure, because John O'Keefe wasn't hit by a car, and they wanted everyone to believe that he was. So, of course, they were tailing her every move. I think also some evidence came out that Colin called Erin Beatty at some point that evening, like around 12:30-ish. Maybe for a
And then
ride
somebody else called Tom Beatty. I think it was one of the McCabe's. We're going to want to double check that. Somebody called Tom Beatty in the morning around 5, maybe later, maybe earlier.
Right. Agreed. Okay. So you know that. Oh, so Marty Kraft, former BPD, right?
Yeah.
And then why did he leave the Boston PD and start a PI firm?
Very lucrative. PI work is very, very, very lucrative. And you don't have to be a former cop to be a PI. You can also work for a PI for a certain amount of time and then be a PI. And so, yeah, he opens his firm. He closes it in 2023, 2024. And then right that same month, within a month or two, Brian Albert opens a PI firm.
Yeah, tell me that. So when did Brian Albert open a PI firm? I think this is something that I did not know.
Fall of 2024, right after Marty Kraft's firm closed, literally within 3 months. You can trace the Secretary of State incorporation records in Massachusetts and look at that timeline.
Okay. And you think that Kate Peter worked for both of those firms?
I can't confirm she worked for Brian Albert's firm, but I know she worked for Marty Kraft's firm because I have a screenshot where she was logged into his PI software and tracking people's like license plates, and she was logged into his private email, Gmail.
And she'll, obviously deny all this as she does. All right, so let's get back to the time where you say you were, kind of pulled into this PSYOP or whatever you want to call it. That was when? February 2024?
Yeah, I call it the D team. It was, I was down in Brockton and I was going to In Good Health that day because the weed's cheap down in Brockton. And it at like $60 or something for an ounce. And because the rent's cheap. And
$60 for an ounce?
Yeah, we have a really good system here. We generate a lot of tax revenue and money. It's like $2 billion a year in revenue and like $300 million in tax revenue a year. It's a big industry.
When we were covering Kelsey Fitzsimmons, we learned that about Justin Alayan too, that there were certain days where it was like $5 joints. And so he would go on a certain day because they had specials, like a happy hour doobie special.
Yeah, we call those custies.
Okay. I remember the first time I ever went to a dispensary, just a little side quest, was in Colorado, like because that was one of the first places to, to legalize. And I went to college and law school there. And then years later, when I went back, walking into a dispensary was a wild experience because, it's like you walk into a counter and there's a guy called a bud tender. And he's like, asking you questions. Okay, so how do you want your weed to make you feel? Do you want it to make you feel relaxed? Do you want it to make you feel happy? Do you want it to make you feel motivated? I'm like, wait. There's a weed that makes you feel motivated? What? I had no idea. All of a sudden, all these different strains with all these different side effects, if you will. And I was blown away by it. All right, back to February of 2024.
Yes. So February of 2024, I'm in this Chick-fil-A parking lot. And as we're in the Chick-fil-A I'm going to In Good Health, and Kate Peter approaches me online, and she asked me if I will meet up with her. Now, I didn't really
like she slid into your DMs. Like, how did she?
Yeah, she slid into
Twitter, like the cesspool. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Twitter. I don't remember. But so she reaches out to me, and it was awkward as fuck. And I don't. Back then, I was well versed in what the government does, but I play by the rules. Like, we're talking like officials in suits that are in regulatory bodies, not whatever the hell this was. So she.
So wait, stop. Did you know who she was? Sorry. Did you know who she was before she reached out to you, or were you just like?
The only thing I knew about her was that she compulsively posted about Turtle Boy. I didn't know her, never heard of her. I just knew she compulsive. Oh, and also I knew that she trolled this man named Chili DeCastro, and also that she trolled this man named Cyrex. Okay, so I knew these three things about her. That was it.
And so what was her in with you? Like, what did she even suggest?
She noticed
just let's meet.
No, she noticed that I went to the December 2023 hearing for Aiden, and I went on WBZ, and she noticed I was taking a position that was hostile to him, but I didn't really know what was going on. And those are the people she always jumps on. Like, if she sees somebody who's even somewhat critical of Turtle Boy and is impressionable, boom. So yeah, she moved, and she asked me to go meet her in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. I'm like, fine. Got to be down Route 24 anyway. I don't remember what Chick-fil-A it was in. It was somewhere near 24 or 128 split. I don't remember. So anyway, we go to the Chick-fil-A. It's like a parking bay, like 4 spots, and we're looking directly at the building. She gets in my car, I think, and is sitting to my right, and we're just talking for about an hour. And she is like, I got to meet someone in a white Toyota Corolla. And I'm like, that's
course.
weird.
I'm
Like,
surprised it wasn't a Ford Edge. But anyway.
Well, in hindsight, I'm a little oblivious. So I'm like, okay, bro, that's cool. Like, maybe you gotta like do your thing. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. Maybe she's like buying drugs, like whatever. I'm not trying to ask too many questions.
Mhm.
So she, like, the less I know, the better. So she like goes out after about an hour, leaves the car, goes over to the Camry, only in there for a few minutes, and comes back.
Wait,
When she
Camry
gets
or
in-
Corolla? I think you said Corolla. Camry?
Corolla. Yeah, it was a white
right.
Toyota Corolla.
Mhm.
We're talking like 3 years ago now. I never, and the reason why I can't, she said the words, but I didn't turn my head to look at this vehicle. Okay,
Mhm.
so, and you'll find out later that we get confirmation of who actually sent the person over there, because
Oh.
Christy Citroni leaked the text message where there was like Lisa or Julie Crisella was like, yeah, that was like my sister-in-law going over to Kate, give Kate money, the cash. So just know we have confirmation this happened in writing.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah. So whoever drives, whether it's a Camry or Corolla, at that time it was that person who came to the parking lot. And Kate Peter gets over back into the car, and she opens up this just like white card envelope. It has no writing on the outside. It's just a white envelope like you'd put a greeting card in. And she opens it up. It's a green card with gold lettering that says thank you. Okay, on the outside. She opens it up, and there's no writing on the inside, just standard like print on the card. I don't remember what it said, like from the card itself. And then there was $400 to $500 bills, 4 to 550s, and like 10 20s. And she spreads it all out open. Okay. And then she's like, yeah, this is to reimburse people for expenses that they incur, you know, and they give it to us in cash so they can't be traced. And me, I was like, that's nice. Good. That's good. That's nice for you, ma'am, because I'm oblivious. And she, I think, was a little confused, because then she just closed it and put it away, and we just moved on with the conversation. And that was
Like,
that.
all
But
this can be yours if the price is right.
But she didn't say it,
Right.
and I'm oblivious. And
She
on the
just thought you
spectrum.
would pick up what she's saying, what you were picking up what she was laying down.
Oh, I didn't figure this out for like 6 months. But
Uh-huh.
3 months later, or 3 days later, maybe a week later, excuse me, she brings me over to Lindsay's house. And from there, like, that's how I got involved in all of this.
And so, but it's not just Kate and Lindsay and these Crisellos who this is. Somebody mentioned this name to me once before, because recently in the FOIA dump that came out, there was a woman named Julie, and her name was blacked out. And it also came up when Michael Marcy did his hostage video. And who's the guy who was the mouthpiece that ran away? David Traub was sending emails back and forth to a woman named Julie. And he said, you know, that's it's so funny that you mentioned that, because we're filming the video that you were suggesting right now. And we were trying to figure out, was that Julie Albert? Was that Julie? And other people were saying that it was this Julie Crisello. I don't know how she fits into all of this. These are a lot of NPCs that I've never heard of.
Oh, no, she's somebody's sister. She's somebody's like sister. They just the names different, like Tim Albert's like sister. She's like involved or married to somebody. And this is the important part, because it comes up in Aiden and Karen's case. I almost forgot. Kate Peter tried to get me to join a Discord server.
I want to talk all about that Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she sends me this link, and I'm like, now I played it cool, but my red flag, like, people must understand, although I was very authentic in my beliefs, even though I was being manipulated, I was authentic in my beliefs. My red flags were up. Like, you don't want to set that red flag off in me, because I will then, even though I might be supportive, I'm watching. And when she tried, like, that money thing, although I didn't get it right away, my red flag was up. The Discord thing, I was so on guard with Kate Peter from the beginning that when she sent me the Discord, I was like, right away, I was like, I know that she'll use like a bot or a hack to scrape the token and abuse it, and like, it's dangerous. And I won't click any links she sends. I won't join any servers she's on. So I told her, I was on Discord, I guess, like many years ago. I don't really know a lot about it. I don't know what a Discord. I don't really want to get involved.
I don't either.
I bluffed her because I wanted her to think I was technologically non-proficient. So she would think I was susceptible to what's called phishing or spear phishing. And so I wanted to bait them into spear phishing me so I could get records of the spear phishing, which of course happened. They're so dumb. They send PDFs that look like invoices in attempts to spearfish, but I have good OPSEC, so I knew what they were. But anyway, so I
Tell
wouldn't
everyone
join
in
your
the chat.
Discord.
Tell everyone in the chat what spearfishing is if they don't know what you're talking about.
You should Google the Director of National Intelligence spear phishing. You'll get a DNI like overview of it. It's just this idea of people sending, like, it's social engineering by proxy. Someone sends you an email that looks like a bill or a transaction or a login, but and the header might look real. In the high level ones, it might look like it actually came from Amazon or Apple, but you click that and that's a link jacker, or worse, and it will take all of your credentials. It will scrape your Google cache and take your logins. Worse, it will put a keylogger on your device and actively monitor what you're typing.
Oh, yeah, we see a lot of this. A lot of people get I get a lot of spam text messages that are like, you have an overdue toll bill, something like that. And they try and get you to click on the links. And I tell everybody all the time, just don't click on any links, overdue tolls, overdue parking tickets, suspicious things. So they can hijack your whole entire computer. Happened recently
and
to
that
another
and
YouTuber.
that term that I was using there, operational security. If you are a HVT, a high value target, you need to learn about virtual machines and sandboxes. Okay, everything that you're doing now on your computer, you can do in an insulated, what's called shell, through what's called a virtual machine. So you have one OS operating system running. You launch that virtual machine within the OS. It's just a window, and it opens a whole new operating system with independent, like walled off areas called a sandbox that you can use to explore information that you need to see but could be compromised. And that's what you should do to protect yourself.
All right, good. We can talk about that another day. All right, so back to February of 2024. She shows you this envelope of money, and now she invites you into this Discord server. And tell us about, we'll if you want to start on the family Discord server now, I find that fascinating. And because it started popping up again in Marcy's emails where people were sending, or he was forwarding links to this exact Discord group to other people in emails that were FOIA'd. So what went on in there? What is Discord, first of all? I don't even know what it is.
It's just like a chat platform where you create it's like an independently hosted server. So say you want to make a chat room. You just go on Discord and click create new server. You're now in charge of that whole server. It's on Discord's platform, but they don't run it, you run it. And so anyone can set them up. Now, the reason why this is such a dangerous platform, and it comes up a lot, like if you look at the Louisiana Attorney General, she talks a lot about how dangerous like Roblox and Discord are, because what the predators do on Roblox is, and people who are like have children should know about this to protect them. The Roblox is somewhat moderated. Ellis would probably disagree with me. He's a good like auditor of Roblox to protect kids. But what the Roblox do is they get the kids off site. And what do you think they're sending them to? Unmonitored Discord chat rooms. So Discord is incredibly, it's versatile. It's not dangerous in substance per se, but in form, it can, just like any other like Telegram or anything else, can be weaponized by nefarious actors. It's the Wild West. Discord, however, has one thing it's known for that other companies are not known for, which is if you delete that server, barring someone being in there logging it, or there being like an independent record of it from like a phone that was logged into it, that was storing stuff like in the phone from the app in the cache, there isn't going to be any record of that server. Discord doesn't, unlike Gmail or otherwise, there's no like 90-day period. It's gone. Poof. So unless someone were dumb enough, let me explain this as well. Michael Morrissey, okay? When you get an attachment from Discord, what it's going to look like is it's going to be a link you can open. You can long press on your phone and just click save as, like say it's a picture or video. Long press, save as. And that file is just going to come down onto your computer. That's what most people would do, or right click if you're on desktop. Okay. that's not going to leave a record of anything. There's no XGIF data on that. Like that's like a fingerprint on a picture or video. There's no, all it's going to be is like this randomized Discord video ID with stripped XGIF data. So it's untraceable. Someone who's dumb and a boomer would, instead of downloading the picture or video and forwarding it for OPSEC purposes, would take that Discord link, the actual link to the attachment, which is called a permalink, which has embedded within it the server ID, and send that link through an email. That's boomer shit. Sorry to say it that way.
That's what Michael Marcy did.
And that's what compromised this whole thing. Like Kate Peter, her role in all this, we'll come to find out in hindsight, is what compromised these cases way before we even got to that point. But Michael Morrissey sending himself that Discord server link allowed a FOIA to go in, and there's 67 pages of emails related to server IDs connected to Kate Peter. These cases are done on that basis alone. And frankly, I think there's a lot more we're going to find out about what was going on during Karen's first and second trial in the context of sequestration orders that were wantonly violated. Wantonly.
Have those emails been released yet, or they just have started like counting them up?
The only thing that has been released is the initial response to the FOIA, and I put it on my X last Friday, saying that there is 67 pages of responsive records.
It's going to blow the whole thing out of the water, don't you think? Because I think Lindsay was the first one who started talking about that family Discord, and she's got screenshots and she's got it all. Like Lindsay, if she wanted to right now, could burn it all down. But let's circle back now to the time where Kate Peter brings you to Lindsay. That was February
so
of 2024.
Yep. And from there, I became sort of involved in looking at both Karen and Aiden's case. But it wasn't just Lindsay. Sort of meeting Lindsay was just the first thing that happened. There were all sorts of people that got around me right at that same time, including Jules and one other woman who reached out to me trying desperately Angels or something, over and over to convince me that Haley Walbrecht was you. Yes. And it was such a deep op that they would go onto your Instagram, take pictures from locations where you were, and then the Haley account would post pictures from a similar location that they didn't actually take, and then they would pile it onto like a comparison chart and send it to me. They were spending like all day doing this.
Oh, really? Wait, okay, so back up. So yes, this waiting on angels person was coming for me relentlessly, posting pictures of my house, posting pictures of my kids, like TikTok, 5 o'clock. If you don't do this, I'm going to release everything about you. Like, it was insane. Yeah. People say I rage quit Twitter. I hadn't even used Twitter in 10 years. I had an old account that I was posting pictures of me and the New York Rangers from when I went to a benefit 10 years prior to that. I was like, I am too old for this. I don't need this. I don't want anything to do with this.
And guess who was on Kate Peters' prior Discord, like her General Mafia Masshole Discord, all the way back to 2019?
Who dat?
Guess who won the pony? Jason Broyles.
So he's been in it with Kate Peters. So they were setting me up, is what you're saying, and trying to get you to believe that that was me, and that Haley Walbrecht's account, not Haley Walbrecht, who everyone now knows as Jason Broyles, was threatening to release Lindsay's total phone extraction, right? And that's what set you off.
Because
it's like a bump.
Because apparently Michael Proctor and Kate Peter and Brian Tully and Michael Morrissey think people with autism are, in their words, the R word. All right. Okay. You want to play ball? You want to underestimate someone? Fine.
It worked for a little while, though.
It did. It absolutely worked. But that's part of it, what brought them divine retribution and justice. Because by it working, they had to keep me close. By keeping me close, they screwed up. Because I got too close. And unlike Truman Capote, I wasn't willing to lie.
The reason that you're wearing the hat that you're wearing today, by the way, nice hat, is because they started a rumor. Do you know the lore behind this? So in January of 2024, as I do, I go see Dave Matthews in Cancun. He plays in Cancun on the beach for 3 nights at a resort. I came back from Cancun in January of 2024. That's the first time I ever spoke publicly about the case. I went on Court TV twice with Jennifer Coffendorfer. I want to know what you know about her too and her involvement in all of this. Jennifer Coffendorfer tried to make me look like an idiot about the dog bites. I found Garrett Wing. I had him on my show. He talked all about exactly why this was a dog attack to John's right arm, because he trains canine dogs for a living. That's what he does. So we were watching a hearing with Alan Jackson. He had this cool like rope bracelet on, and I said, "Oh wow, that looks like a bracelet I got in Cancun when I was with Dave Matthews." That morphed into a Twitter rumor of Melanie Little was in Cancun with Alan Jackson, right? And that's how that went crazy. And then you one day on the courthouse steps said to Alan Jackson, "Did you have fun in Cancun with Melanie Little?" And so you asked him that twice. And I'm like, who is this guy? And Alan Jackson doesn't even know who I am. I thought it was hilarious. I made merch like Afro Man does. I went to Cancun with attorney Melanie Little. You are the reason that we have that merch. And I would love to know how you got to that rumor and who made you believe it, or how you even became aware of that.
I'd have to check the records, but how apropos that exactly what the people in the Cannabis Control Commission did to me, to plant questions at press conferences to use against the chair, happened in a similar form, way more manipulative though towards me, with Karen and involving you. Like that was constant. They were around me all the time.
So just to confirm, and we'll talk about this more off
I
the
gotta tell
air.
you one more thing. This dude, a dude reached out to me via DM, right? Just this random dude. He's like, "Hey, like, I like the work you're doing in the cannabis sector. You want to be friends?" We start hanging out. Like he like weirdly wants to spend a lot of time with me, like drive me places, like hang out. I get like a little weirded out and kind of like cut him off. He immediately leaves Massachusetts and goes to Florida. Just keep that in mind, right about this same time. So they were tipping me off without realizing it.
What do you mean? How did that tip you off that he went to Florida? Tip you off to what?
Well, because this guy just randomly enters my life. He like DMs me on LinkedIn, and he's like really pushing to like hang out, like spend time with me, like oddly, like just weirdly. And but he's not pretending to be interested in the Turtle Boy or Karen Reed case. He's just interested in the cannabis world, like regulatory stuff. Okay, that's a little weird, because some other people right around that time, mods on my YouTube channel, were like volunteering to have Zooms with me and like help me like set things up. And they were a little bit weird too, similar. I'll explain that later. But so this guy is like spending time with me. And as soon as I get weird and I'm like, I'm not going to spend time with you, I don't want to give you any information, he flips out and starts like screaming, like, and then leaves the state like 2 weeks later and goes to Florida. And that, I was like, wait a minute, that's weird. That's never happened to me. That's odd. Something was up with him. What's going on? So my alert level by like March, spring 2024 is like through the roof. Because now I've had two approaches in very odd ways. One that was way too like well designed, not the Kate Peter one, but the other one. I didn't know what I was up against, but now I'm like really on alert. So everything that's happening, I'm now taking with a grain of salt, even though I may be like manipulated, and I'm starting to see more and more. The curtain is slowly pulling back. Now I didn't figure out what was going on with you until I got a leak of a message where Jason Broyles said he was going out trying to convince people he was you. And then I was like, oh, it was an op. It was a fucking op. And I got mad. And then I was like, don't manipulate me. Oh, don't manipulate me. Don't take advantage of my better nature. I'll come for you juridically. And that's where it started. It started because they manipulated me. And then I was on the warpath. It took like 2 years to get him.
I feel like I felt personally like the reason that you came for me was because you were protecting Lindsay, and this person was threatening to release Lindsay's total phone extraction, which he eventually did, by the way. And I don't remember. Do you remember exactly when it happened?
Yeah, to help. Okay, you can look. You want to know something fascinating? Research the name Jen McCabe and the name Lindsay Catani on Google Trends, and look when they would spike. Look when that phone was released, right before Karen's first trial. I know what you did, Brian Tully. I know what you did. I told the federal government.
What did he do?
He leaked it on purpose.
He did.
Ken Miller was in the hospital. Ryan Tully leaked that on purpose as a distraction, and then through Kate laundered it to Jason Broyles. And these people might escape, like for now, federal state charges because whatever. But once Deitch is in there and come next fall, some of these people are going to get their juridical comeuppance, and they deserve all of it.
I've been saying since the beginning that Tully's fingers are everywhere. He's got his hands in everything. Tully and Fanning both. And so
I loathe John Fanning. I loathe John Fanning with every bone in my body. I know what you did, John Fanning. I know what you did. You covered up Sandra Birchmore's murder. And listen to me, Matthew Farwell's trial, if he gets a 501k cooperation agreement, you know exactly who they're coming for.
I don't understand why the state hasn't brought charges, but I mean, you're right. Listen, if Adam Deitch does get elected, do you think he'll get elected? I don't know. People need to get out and vote. If you live in Norfolk County, get out and vote. It's a September 1st election.
And if you're a Republican, you can change your registration to unenrolled 10 days before the primary and vote in the Democratic primary. It doesn't make you a Democrat. It just lets you vote. And then you can vote in the Republican primary and vote in the general however you want.
Right. Right. I mean, that's the only way that real change is going to happen, I think, in Norfolk County, because that county has been corrupt for decades, as has law enforcement. I have personal knowledge about that for decades, since the 70s, at least. Yeah. Why do you? Okay, well, so go ahead.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my dad.
The lore. I mean, this is what a lot of people don't seem to understand, is that I've been saying since the beginning that it's been corrupt for decades, and everyone who lives there knows it. And it goes so much deeper than the Karen Reed case. Like this is not about Karen Reed. Karen Reed was a patsy that they used to protect other very highly influential, very, I guess, in their world, important people. It feels like an organized crime story. It feels like a mafia story. And people would say, this kind of corruption doesn't exist. These kind of cover-ups don't exist. And I would say, have you heard about the Catholic Church scandal? Because I was one of the lead plaintiffs' attorneys for the Catholic Church scandal on Long Island when it first broke in Boston in 2002. This fight went on for over 15 years. We eventually had to change the law, because if you were a pedo in New York and you could keep a kid quiet long enough, you would never go to jail and nobody could ever sue you. And there couldn't be criminal charges because the statute of limitations was short. So
I'm going to blow your mind.
What we learned here was, just let me finish my thought, because I'm like you, I'll forget. Is the depths of the fraud and the corruption and the cover-up in the Catholic Church scandal, where they would pluck the priests out of one parish, Father so-and-so, and then they would put him in a different parish, but they wouldn't warn the next parish, Father so-and-so likes the little boys, he likes the little girls, keep them away, don't let kids come into the rectory. I had one priest who had violated 15 of my clients, who were then men, over a 15-year period of time in all different parishes throughout Long Island. So if they had originally done something with this guy after victim number 1, the 14 others never would have been victimized. So it can happen. It does happen. And these are high-level church people orchestrating this policy of what to do when the moms came in to make them not go to the police. And these priests were also lawyers. And they didn't tell anybody that either. Like, the story is wild. I've seen it all. So yeah, what is happening here. I mean, not to minimize it at all, is small potatoes compared to, the rampant abuse of children in the system here in just this one diocese. So it happens, it's real, and people who don't believe it are fooling themselves. Back to you.
I'm gonna blow your mind. The reason I wanted to become a Catholic priest, I actually started discernment. I heard the call when I was praying to the Virgin Mother outside of Baptist Library in the spring of 2013. The reason why I wanted to become a Catholic priest is so I got very high up at Boston College. Oh, that's wonderful.
I had Tiny Jesus and Tiny Mary right here, always watching over us.
And the call that I heard was, by the way, the world is yours to behold if you can abscond from your temporal inclinations. So I interpreted that as the call, and I began discernment. And what's cool is you at BC, when you do discernment, you do it at Melisa House. You might ask why. That was the first place that St. Ignatius went in Spain on his pilgrimage to Rome. So that's really cool. I love stuff like that hides in plain sight. So the reason I wanted to become a Catholic priest is I was mad about cremae and solicitationes the papal bull issued in 1962. Now, it was originally promulgated in 27. It wasn't actually sent out in secret until 62. This doctrine overturned Canon 904. Canon 904, prior to 1962, mandated that reports of violations of the sacrament of penance had to go to local civil authorities. After the Crimean papal bull was issued, all those reports had to go to the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith. Who was the head of the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith for 20 years? None other than Papa Ratzinger himself, who would go on to become Pope Benedict, which is why he resigned.
I mean, they protected these guys for a long time.
Priest.
Horrific. I didn't know you wanted to become a Catholic. Were you raised Catholic?
I was raised in a Jewish and Catholic family, so both.
Interesting. Okay, back to the systemic corruption and how much deeper this goes than Karen Reed, and how deep you think it goes, and why is a guy like Proctor willing to risk his everything, his family, his livelihood, his job, his career, to protect a guy like Brian Albert? Is Brian Albert the guy who knows where all the bodies are buried? Are people afraid of him? Like, nobody can understand how this could happen. Listen, I was a civil litigator for over 30 years, handled tens of thousands, a lot of car accident cases, including pedestrian cases and dog bite cases. And there is no way that man was hit by a car. He had no injuries below the neck, except for what looks like a dog attack to his right arm. No bumper marks, no bruising. If that taillight did indeed crack him in the arm, going 24 miles an hour, 60 feet in reverse, his arm would have been shattered. It just, with the injuries, it was not a car accident case. Why? How? What the F is going on over there? What are your thoughts?
So temporally, we're in like 2024, 2025 on our timeline. I want to talk about the mystery man a little bit later, because that puts it all together. But when you look into something like this as a reporter, if you knew the truth from the beginning, it wouldn't be reporting. You'd already know. When you're in the fog of the reporting, you don't know what's going on. So I'll explain. I love the book Black Mass. In like 2024, you can find this on Twitter. I'm reading Black Mass again, and I find this thing in there about the Norfolk DA, William Delahunt, and Whitey. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. My parents, my mom and dad, met in the 1980s in the Middlesex District Attorney's Office, working under Scott Harshbarger. My mom came up from down the lake. She was the first person in her family to go to college, the lake in Newton, and was the first person to go to law school. And my dad went to Hampshire College, which did not give grades, and got into Harvard Law from Hampshire College. First person to do so, as far as I know in history. And
they just shut down, by the way, left everybody in the lurch. I know. Hampshire College, terrible.
It was heartbreaking. It just didn't. It was a great experiment, but it didn't fit within modern academia because it didn't give grades. So it was very hard to measure student performance. My dad loved it though. He said it was very helpful. But anyway, my dad
for those in the chat who don't know about Black Mass, that is it's about Whitey Bulger, right?
Yes, okay. Correct. And the book I recommend by Dick Lair and Gerard O'Neill, not the movie. The movie's fine, but the book is what you want to read. So in the 1990s, my dad late 80s, was on an interagency task force that was spying on the Angelos. They were called In Town at Prince Street in the North End. Now,
okay, who are the Angelos? For those of us who are not from the area, who are the Angelos?
Oh, okay. So the commission.
Are they a crime family? Like you asked me about the Gaudis. I know about the Gaudis. I'm from New York. We have different families here, okay.
So the commission in New York, right? The five families, they have the Patriarchas back then in Rhode Island. And then the Patriarchas have the Angelos in Boston. Think of the Angelos as the capos for the Patriarchas, basically.
Got it.
But really, the Angelos were their own operation called In Town.
Okay.
Numbers, bookmaking. It's actually why Massachusetts had the first ever lottery. We took the numbers game away from them.
Okay.
So something that's important to understand is in the 1990s, the former head of the state police went on to, it was like Americo or something was his last name, Went on to work as the manager of the Wonderland racing track up in Revere. They were taking $100,000 a day in off-track parimutuel bets illegally for the Angelos. So
That's a
now
big
let's
operation.
rewind.
Yeah.
1975. William Delahunt, the Norfolk District Attorney, goes into a restaurant for dinner. Ostensibly, Whitey's guy Stevie, the rifleman Flemmy, comes in and threatens a patron over an $100,000 debt. William Delahunt goes to the FBI and DOJ in Boston and asks them to prosecute Whitey and Stevie because the Norfolk DA, William Delahunt, can't. He's a fact witness. The feds stonewall him. Now, if you read Black Mass, you're going to get the impression that out of moral righteousness, the state police and the Norfolk DA then went and exposed H. Paul Rico and John Conley, letting Whitey and Stevie murder people to help take down the Angelos. But I think what the Norfolk DA at the time actually realized, and the state police actually realized, is that Whitey and Stevie, who were on the surface actually running hits for the Angelos, they were working for the Italian mob, were informants for the feds. That's what William Delahunt, I think, realized when the feds wouldn't prosecute. Not that just that they were protected and enabling it, but that the Whitey had flipped on the Angelos, and therefore he made an enemy of the state police. Therefore, if you think about Black Mass from that perspective, the state police forcing into the public realm Whitey's behavior and John Conley's behavior and Flemy's behavior caused a black mark for the FBI. But it might not have been because the state police thought it was wrong. It might have been because Whitey flipped on the people paying the state police. And if you think about Black Mass that way, and if you think about who Whitey's lawyer was in 2014, that might have known all this and might be out for revenge,
Hank Brennan?
then that second trial looks a lot different. And David Traub in December of 2024, going to work for Reagan Communications, the same PR firm that represented 4 of the jurors in Karen's second case, looks a little different. Hank Brennan was not, in my opinion, working for Michael Morrissey and the state police. He was spying on them for Leah Foley, who he met for the first time in 2015 when they worked on opposite sides of a federal case regarding marijuana trafficking. Look it up.
How did Hank Brennan get Michael Morrissey to pick him then, do you think?
Kerry Lama. They thought they were getting a heavy hitter. What they were getting was a very, very smooth operator.
Let me tell you something, because we watched the Lucy Medina trial. I don't know if you watched that trial. And Hank Brennan was her defense attorney. She was a victim of DV who assaulted her husband, but he didn't die. And he wound up, a paraplegic or, bedridden or whatever. And he defended her in that case. And he was a totally different guy. It was like, for me, it was like the Hank Brennan redemption tour. I'm like, wait a second. Don't make me like you, Hank Brennan. Don't make me like you. But for those of you who did watch the Lucy Medina trial with me, tell me what you thought. Like, it was a totally different guy.
But Attorney Little, shh, don't tell them.
This is not Kate Peters' first rodeo. I want to play you something from last night because we talked about this before. I asked you if you watch it. Kate Peter went on Young Jerks after Turtle Boy's hearing. And I have one little clip that I want you to hear because I was blown away when she said this, because she's telling us everything now about how she has done this before. This is not the first time that she has done such a thing as this. So listen up, chat. Grant, if you haven't heard this, listen up.
I'm going to ask you some questions because I got some big questions. Because this just went in court today about the links and the videos. What can you tell us about that? Because they're making it out a certain narrative about the links and the videos. Who hosted them? What can you tell us about all that?
Sure. So early on in this, I was able to recognize that this was going in a certain direction with him and these witnesses, right? And so obviously at some point, I'm posting about it. After posting about it, I ended up getting in touch with some of the witnesses. We, discussed this. And what I started doing was monitoring streams, right? And my intent in monitoring his streams was so that the people that were being targeted by them didn't have to, because it's distressing, right? And I've done this for a lot of people. If you were to go back and...
I've done this for a lot of people, she says. If you would go back, if you would have gone back. Yeah, tell us more.
Look at, you know, my presence on YouTube for the last 6 or 7 years or whatever. That's something that my group has done a lot. Is like, you know, we find someone.
My group. She says my group. We find things. Who's my group? Who's in the
Right.
group?
And was this the same group that was working with Leah Genduso to target Aiden as far back as what, 2021, 2022? So who's pulling the wool? Like, it doesn't irk me. I don't like people who are manipulative. If you like are going to tell it, if you're going to tell it straight. Like, defend your position. She can't even, and I think Crawford's enabling her, say that this really started when she was monitoring Turtle Boy like compulsively, because she's like Helga Pataki building a statue out of gum to this man she loves but doesn't love him. So she's trying to destroy him, because if she can't have I'm sorry, Kate Peter, you're just not his type, clearly. Okay? Like 20 years too late, 6 inches too tall, and no further comment. Anyway, so my point is, this woman is not being forthcoming on the most basic rudimentary level. She didn't just find this man. She had been compulsively monitoring him since she stopped working for him when she got fired in 2019.
Right. So here's what she says. So let's listen to that part again.
Have to, because it's distressing, right? And I've done this for a lot of people. If you were to go back and look at, you know, my presence on YouTube for the last 6 or 7 years or whatever, that's something that my group has done a lot.
6 or 7 years. So that takes her back to, when did you say that Turtle Boy fired her? 2019?
Yeah.
2019? That's 7 years ago.
It's like, you know, we find someone who's maybe bullying or what we perceive to be victimizing other people. We take an interest in, and part of that is we'll monitor the content, because the person being targeted shouldn't be burdened by that. Well,
that's why she came for me.
And that's not what she actually does. The reason these guys around her, like Biff and them, are so militant, you got to understand, she dresses up like a young girl. I don't know how, filters or something, and maybe like an avatar, and goes into Sex Anonymous meetings, apparently, and then catfishes the people in Sex Anonymous meetings, and then they pred hunt them. She's a pred hunter, and that's why all those guys are so militant and so loyal to her, because they pred hunt. It looks like they're trolling First Amendment auditors and people like Cyrax. They're really pred hunting. And you know what's scary? Pred hunters are oftentimes preds. Like, they use the veneer and their closeness to law enforcement to pretend like they're protecting kids and vulnerable women when they're really preds.
But what other
Jason Broyles.
What? Say that again?
Oh, I don't know. Did you say something? I don't know. I didn't say anything.
Oh yeah, I got my thoughts about that guy. The person being targeted shouldn't be burdened by it. So what other people have been targeted prior to, you know, these Haas witnesses that she now claims to be ride or die for? Who before that?
Leah Genduso. That's
Leah Genduso.
Bathtub. We call her Bathtub. She likes to hang out in bathtubs. Shout out to Bathtub.
So she's the one who was a former MSP trooper, and Aiden wrote a story about her dealing weed or something, or there was something having to do with drugs, and she then got fired from the Massachusetts State Police. I don't really know the story.
It's way more wild than that. So it had to do with this judge altering a report about it was way more intense than that. So it had to do with a judge altering a report for the daughter, or the state police altering a police report for the daughter of a judge. Leah Genduso's commanding officer, or like one of the second or third in command, she was also sleeping with. Aiden found out about this, which in turn led him to find out that she had a drug conviction for like trafficking from before she got hired. So then he realized that the state police, because she was sleeping with this guy who was already in hot water, had enabled her to be hired in violation of law and policy, and then she was fired. So Aiden exposed not only like some of the tangential connections to that wider cover-up, but he helped bring down like the entire command of the state police. They have hated him ever since then.
What year was that? Do you know?
Oh God, 2019, 2020. We can look up the news article. It might have been even before.
Okay,
that,
so it was after this 7-year period that she's talking about, 6 or 7 years. Let's see what else she let her keep talking. It's not that much longer.
2018.
In the case of these
Oh, that's 2018. Okay.
Right as
Witnesses,
he was getting fired.
Right. Okay. Got it.
couldn't stop looking anyway. So I'm monitoring it. In the case of these witnesses, they just couldn't stop looking anyway. So I'm monitoring it. They're monitoring it. We have a Discord group that I'm sure people have talked about, which is not just for witnesses. Actually, there aren't even that many witnesses in there. There's a lot.
Trying to minimize the Discord group. Not that many witnesses. It's not just for witnesses. It's for all the people that want to come and work for us to help us enroll people.
And let's pause. She has two separate Discords. So she has multiple Discords. One of them is the Mafia Masshole Discord. That's not what she's talking about. This is the like a separate one she created and then deleted. And then there are more. And what she does is recruit from the public Discord into the private ones, kind of like finals clubs at Harvard. You know, you can't get in the inner circle club unless you're a president of one of the finals clubs first.
Right. Oops, wait.
A lot of people that just took an interest in this from the internet that I've worked with in the past that have, skills and archiving and
a lot of people from the internet that I've worked with in the past who have skills like archive. Like this is what these people do all day for free. It's mind-numbing to me.
She told me one time in person, she told me religion is BS, which I was really mad about. And then she gets drunk sometimes on wine and just talks. And then she regrets it. And then she also told me that she works with cops. She was so close one time to say, she was in Lindsay's apartment on her couch, and Kate Peter almost said, Grant, you got to understand, I work with cops because, and then she almost said it. I was like, tell me. She wouldn't do it though. She caught herself. The only time that like ridiculous, like uncontrollable, like force couldn't manage to just keep talking. She caught herself. So it must be so serious what she was doing for him. Now I have a theory. Okay. Just my opinion. I think she was running girls for him. I think she was running girls for cops. That seems to be the most logical conclusion here, but that's just a theory.
That's a theory. And there's a lot of brothel activity up there and higher ups involved in it too.
That hate
is another scandal that's going on.
I hate prostitution, not because of the act, okay? I don't necessarily have a problem with the act. I have a problem with it because it cannot exist without facilitating human trafficking, and I hate people who traffic humans and hurt kids or animals.
Agreed. Me too.
Pay a lot of attention and kind of know what to look for. So that's what that is. And so we're monitoring mainly just what we perceive to be harassment. And I did not trust. So I heard, from the witnesses at some point, like, they're investigating this. Great. I did not trust that the police were going to be capable of keeping up on this and monitoring it and catching these things. I was wrong. I later found out, but that was my mind frame at the time, is I didn't think they were capable. So I would flag.
So she thinks or knows that the Massachusetts State Police is a bunch of buffoons. She thinks that she's a better investigator than they are. So she's taking it upon herself to help them with Turtle Boy clips. Let's let her keep going.
Let me just pause. I think what really happened was, so if you remember Michael Morrissey going to the legislature for a $1 million supplemental appropriation, he didn't get it. He got a little bit of money from the District Attorneys Association. I think what happened was Michael Morrissey might have said, listen, if you can find funding for this, fine, but I don't have it. So what they did was they outsourced a public prosecution with private funds laundered through PI agencies, coordinated via Kate Peter. That's why think about it, Attorney Little. Does this investigation hold any water, even under bright line reasoning, which is generous? Doesn't it almost seem like this is probably the most, and this is being generous, unprofessional, inefficient, constitutionally deficient prosecution you've ever seen? It's because it was run by a non-cop and a non-lawyer. Right.
This is what I call, and we're talking now about the Aidan Carney case, the alleged witness intimidation case, for which he's facing statutorily up to 100 years in prison. It's like 90-something years when you do the math. This is the most egregious case of weaponization of a law that I've ever seen. So you think that they privately funded his persecution, and that would make complete sense, because why would they spend so much money going after Aidan Carney? Because they are so afraid of him. And I noticed that too, that when the Twitter ramps up, when people start coming for me, it's because I'm right over the target.
Yeah,
and because they're afraid that people are going to believe that I'm speaking the truth and that what I have to say, and they're trying to shut me down too.
Yeah, and who are the special prosecutors? Ken Mello, who literally, I try not to judge people like as a human, okay?
Yeah.
But who were the special prosecutors? Ken Mello, who has since been criminally charged for threatening to stab a nurse in a parking lot. Okay?
I know.
And Robert Cosgrove, who, although has more gravitas, is no more together in terms of like getting things done or being efficient or being a good lawyer. I'm sorry, Mr. Cosgrove. Listen, you're not making good arguments. You're not Kate Peters' defense lawyer. What are you doing? But my point is, what did they do? What they really did was they had this woman cosplaying this like strange woman who has no legal training, who is not a police officer, who is not a member of the prosecution team by the letter of the law, but certainly under Hybel and Rule 14 as amended in March of 2025 in Massachusetts, she is running the prosecution. It's literally vacuous. It's retaliatory. It's illegal, in my opinion. It's an abuse of the government. It's constitutionally impermissible. It shouldn't, like when Judge Bezos puts together what actually happened, if he is being legitimate, which I don't have any reason to believe he is not to this point in time, he's going to look at this and say, are you kidding me? You had a grand jury run by a private citizen that was basically a member of the prosecution team that you never disclosed. Mm-hmm. Alec Baldwin, eat your heart out.
Right. But the thing is, a lot of people think that because Cosgrove was a judge in Norfolk County, I don't know for how long, I don't know if you know, but he's a retired Norfolk County judge, that a lot of these judges will not rule against him out of some sort of judicial respect.
You think he sat on any cases where Ken Mello was an attorney? Just wondering.
Oh, I'm sure it's highly likely. But here she is telling us that she's emailing everything over to the Massachusetts State Police, aka Tully, right? So let's keep going.
I would email them over to the Massachusetts State Police. At the same time that I'm doing that, though, the witnesses are already doing that. And frankly, even some concerned citizens, I think, from the internet in general are doing that. And
where are those communications? Where are those communications with Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, emailing things to Michael Marcy? All of that shit is now impounded, right? All of the communications between Proctor and the Haas plaintiffs and Haas defendants are all impounded, sealed. Nobody can see them. And there's a reason for that, because there's probably so many. They had a direct line, and anybody at the Norfolk DA's office. So not just Proctor, Tully, Michael Marcy, Adam Lally, all the guys that they were communicating with, including like their victim witness advocate, all that stuff is sealed. And there must be a hell of a lot of it.
How much do you want to bet, by the way, that Michael Proctor's full phone extraction has the name Kate Peter in it, or at least one of her numbers, one of his 4 phones, by the way. Yes. And let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if, although the bigotry is central to Proctorgate right now, Proctorgate V2 is going to be whatever the hell all those people were talking about from the summer of 2023 until the summer of 2025. Michael Proctor, that's what's really going on with Proctorgate. It's big. It's huge. It's very big.
And it goes so much deeper. And she loves to be involved in it.
Because the more intense and outrageous from the internet in general.
Well, hold on. Can I say one more thing? Mm-hmm. Listen, God works in mysterious ways, and Kate Peter got everything she wanted yesterday and more. She's the star of the show, just not in the way she expected.
Right. And she's now, that's why she went on Mike Crawford's show. She's trying to do some damage control.
Because the more intense and outrageous he gets, the more people are paying attention, the more people are then motivated to want to send it to the police. So I don't know how many emails, like Tully, for instance, got.
Wait, pause. Hold on. Did she just say the more outrageous he gets, the more likely people want to send stuff to the police? Wasn't it Kate who admitted to planting a fake rumor with Aiden about Colin Albert, designed to make him say inflammatory things? Now, listen, if you're walking down the street to go buy a newspaper and some government informant walks up to you and tries to force you to buy cocaine, sounds a lot like entrapment to me by comparison.
Well, she started the rumor, and she has fully admitted it. She started the rumor that Colin Albert was a drug dealer, and she sent it to Aiden. How did she start it?
Right, by sending it to him. She sent it
to Aiden, but under an anonymous email, pretending to be someone else as like a source, just to test whether or not he would vet it or not, and whether he would run with it or not. And he said it on his show, and then she took full responsibility for it. How are these people like Julie Albert and Chris Albert, parents of Colin, sympathetic to Kate Peter or working with Kate Peter when she's the one who started the rumor that their son is a drug dealer.
And how weird is it that 3 years later, we then find out Karen and John recorded a drug deal outside of John's house in 2021, sent the information to Kevin Albert, and John goes up to the kid who's trying to buy the drugs from the Florida car plate or pick up the package and threatens him, shows his BPD badge and gun. This is in Kevin Albert's, like one of his oral reports to the Canton PD or in a text. And he says, like, John walked up to the kid, flashed the badge and gun, and said, "Do not deal outside my home." And the kid said, "Okay, sir." And then came back the next day and does it again. Who would have the stones to do a drug deal again in front of a cop's home unless they were protected? And is that why there was what's called a modified limited hangout about information related to drug dealing and otherwise in Canton, so that people would hear this kernel of ridiculousness and not ask questions about what was really going on? I don't know. I'm just asking questions now.
Yeah, it's a distraction, right? Isn't that what they do? They distract.
Well,
So-
have you ever heard of a modified limited hangout? It comes from Ehrlichman, Haldeman, and Nixon sitting around in 73 when Senator Irving was having the summer Watergate committee hearings before the impeachment hearings in 74. And Ehrlichman and Haldeman and Nixon, they were all CIA guys at one time. They were all talking. And they're like, listen, why don't we just do a limited hangout? And John Dean's there too. And he's like, Ehrlichman's like, yeah, like a modified limited hangout. What if we just like partially release some of the truth, but then make it look like, you know, we had no involvement in Watergate? Like, let's do a modified limited hangout. You can look it up on Wikipedia. They have the source quote from the Nixon tapes. That's exactly what this was. This was a bunch of modified limited hangouts over and over and over again, so people would chase ridiculous rabbit holes and not be able to understand what actually happened, and they pulled it off. Because if Karen's team knew what actually happened on that Sallyport video at 5:38 p.m. on 1/29/2022, they would have pieced together exactly who planted those pieces of taillight and exactly when it happened. You overload them with information, you flood the zone, you run limited hangouts, you run psychological operations, and you just pray that the actual truth doesn't get out there. It's classic intelligence community stuff laundered through sheep-dipped informants who probably were run by MSP and local cops who then retired, worked for private intel, brought their informant network into the private intel world, and bada bing, bada boom, you got the answer.
I was on mute. You know, I've been thinking that, not as eloquently as you just put it, for a very long time. I also thought, and somebody said that here, Fairy Tale said, I bet she sent, meaning Kate, the Proctor email to Aiden so he would read it out and she could record it and send it to his attorney. If you know, you know. This was, you know, everything that Judge Gilday brought out in court, like Aiden's tweets, like giving it full credence, right? And believing every part of it when we know it was the wrong time. I said, and I've said from the beginning, that I think a lot of things here involving Aiden were bumps, you know, as they said in the Donna Adelson case, like it's a bump. You bump them, you know exactly how they're going to react to it, and then you can entrap them. I have said for a long time that I think that the Lindsay Tully subpoena was a bump. They knew that Aiden would react to that. They knew that if Lindsay called Aiden and said, I just got served with a grand jury subpoena to come in and testify against you, that Tully brought to my house, they knew that Aiden would react, that he would go over there and want to talk to her about it, so that they could get him in a position where they could then get him to violate something, anything, whatever happened, they could incarcerate him, and they did. And that's exactly what happened. And nobody can convince me otherwise, because that whole thing with Lindsay was a total setup. And I don't think that she knew. I really don't. I think she was used just the same way that you were used. But the fact that she's in the bathroom texting with Tully and Kate Peter, and I don't remember if Mello was on the text chain at that time, but they knew how he would react. And that's exactly how they got him. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
Wait,
so I sent
let her
you...
finish her sentence. Wait, hold on.
Okay.
But I know the witnesses were as well, and that other people were as well. Tully has represented that he went to the internet, you know, clicked links or found these videos, however he did it, personally saw it himself and preserved that. I believe that
Okay.
Because my understanding whenever I would furnish information to police is I'm giving you this information, but the onus is on you to go out and investigate it, right? And they never asked me for anything. I was just giving it. So there's not like there's any sort of coordination or any sort of indication of...
What do you think? What, did you
hold
say
on.
stop?
Okay, so yeah, this is big. So has clearly been watching my streams, and I understand.
She has a whole team watching them. She has a whole team doing this for her.
Well, and I'm glad that they want to learn about Hybel. But so I have a hypothetical question for you. I also sent you a link in the private chat to exactly what you just described, bumping, described by a former CIA and FBI guy. You're going to find it fascinating. But let me say this about Hybel. So what's really interesting about what Kate Peter just said is, let me give you a hypothetical. Under the exclusionary rule and Rule 14, would it be permissible, hypothetically, for a private intelligence informant working under a private intel firm with plausible deniability, who said they were never directly told to do this by a state police officer or a member of the Norfolk DA's office, to, I don't know, let's say like pretend to get romantically involved with someone, get really close to them, like at a vulnerable time, and then like after getting close to them, like do a bunch of things, and also steal their computer, make a complete copy of it, and then try to civil and criminal proceedings. Because Hybel has a 3-factor test. Now, Hybel, of course, is from the 8th Circuit, and it has to do with the government agency doctrine. And what's so interesting about what Kate...
Oh, damn, you just broke up. Wait, hold on. Wait until you come back. Oh no, did we lose you? Okay, wait.
No,
okay.
I'm back. No,
Okay.
If you look at Hybel, the 3 factors for when someone becomes a government agent are: did the government instructor acquiesce to the civilian's conduct? Did the civilian have a primarily law enforcement purpose? And then the third prong of the Hybel test, I think, is I'll have to look it up, but the Hybel case is an exact corollary here. In Hybel, there was a woman who called the police because her daughter was essayed by the man she was dating. The police come to her and they arrive at the scene. The man's gone, but he had left his phone in her car. The police officer says to the woman, do you have the phone? And she says, yes. And this is a phone where he had taken pictures of the abuse of the child. So she goes to the car, gets the phone, brings it over to the officer. He does an initial cursory review, can't find it. They take it back to the station. They do a forensic analysis and find it. They charge him. Should it be excluded? Was she acting as an agent of the government? The court said yes to one factor, whether the law enforcement officer acquiesced to her conduct. No to the primary law enforcement purpose. Her primary purpose there was protecting her kid. No to acting under an instruction from the officer. Why? Because the officer didn't say, can you go get the phone for me? He said, do you have the phone? So that's what she's thinking about. She's like, oh, I know what Hybel says. I got to go up there. Oh, Bettero's going to tear her apart. Good luck. Good luck. That's all I got to say.
Let her finish this one thought, because she's really giving so much. I'm so glad she did
They don't have a handle on it. So I believe
she's saying the police don't have a handle on it. She's here to help. Cosgrove doesn't have a handle on it. Hold on.
and they never asked me for anything. I was just giving it. So there's not like there's any sort of coordination or any sort of indication that they don't have a handle on it. So I believe Cosgrove.
And her motivation here, unlike the woman in Hybel, is not to protect her child.
It's
to bury
to
Aiden Carney.
I saw a screen of her making a YouTube comment.
Oh, you just broke up again. Hold that thought.
Sorry.
Okay, back. You're back.
No, I have a screenshot where she was saying in a YouTube comment, her primary purpose was to try to indict him. She was screaming primary law enforcement purpose into the public. These cases cannot go to the. I believe what the Norfolk DA has done, much like what they did with Michael Proctor, is they've tried to insulate the case in real time from Kate Peters' involvement. That's why you're seeing indictments fall off where the evidentiary trail leads to Kate Peter. Well, guess what? All 12 of Aiden's current remaining indictments lead right back to Kate Peter or her operatives. Hashtag I know what happened at the pizza shop.
Hold on. Hold that thought.
When he states that whatever I provided them in terms of videos was largely duplicative of what other people were sending too, right? Because again, Aiden is doing this in full view of the entire public and the people that are the named victims in this case, right? So like it would be foolish not to believe that multiple people are watching these things, multiple people recognize them as potentially criminal, and multiple people are then motivated to report it to the police, right? Which, by the way, is petitioning activity.
True.
Right.
So you're saying none of
Hold
that
on,
came
hold on,
from you?
Pause. Okay, so here's the thing. Petitioning activity, I'm not a lawyer, this is not legal advice. Attorney Will's a lawyer, though. Listen, a petitioning activity is a very precising definition under anti-SLAPP law. It means only like it only means you're petitioning to ward off like civil liability.
Right.
A private citizen in the criminal context where there's a deprivation of a liberty interest at stake runs into so many more problems. You can't assert petitioning activity to get out of being defined as a member of the prosecution team, which is why this case is falling apart, because you can't prosecute a case when you're not a lawyer because you won't know what you're doing.
Right. But if you listen to her, she's like, it wasn't just me. It was lots of people sending them information. But it just so happens that it's your clips named the way that you named them and saved them on your computer that were used in front of the grand jury, which the titles of which were highly prejudicial and inflammatory.
And let's remember one more thing. I don't mean to jump in.
No, go ahead.
Yuri Buchanan sent an email in October of 2023 saying Catherine Peter O'Keefe MV homicide report. She was working on Karen's case too, and they never gave that to Karen in Discovery. How do I know? Because I tagged David Yannetti in a post about that, and he reposted me.
Well, they're on it now. You can bet that.
Oh, listen, this is going to be an apocalypse. Listen, Kate Peters single-handedly not only exposed the op. Remember who was in court in the spring of 2023, Attorney Little? None other than the what's his name? The tall man, Mark Diller.
Mark Diller,
Spring
yeah.
In Norfolk Superior Court for Karen's criminal case. All right, who hired the PI firms? Who laundered the informants? What were these people doing? Why were they pretending to be pro-Karen, pro-Aiden, some combination of both? Why did they try to artificially divide Karen and Aiden? And why does every time Michael Proctor or Kate Peter or Jen McCabe come up in the news, there's some kind of artificial distraction where people throw themselves on the fire so that they will be talked about? In someone's words, why do I have to be the bad guy again? I didn't know you were acting to begin with. I'm on to you.
Yep. No, we've seen it. We've seen it play out in real time. Let's see what else she says. Because
as far as you know, you think it was all Tully, the links about
it came from me. Like I would flag it and go like, hey, like look what he did last night. I was one of many people doing that. And then you've got Tully, who is now said under oath, by means of an affidavit, I went and looked for myself, which is just common sense, really, because like my father used to say it all the time when I was growing up, trust but verify. They don't know me from Adam. So they don't know whether I'm
listen to me. I understand like imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but ma'am, I'm talking to Miss Peter. Ma'am, you are not me. You'll never be me, no matter how many times you watch me, no matter how much you try to study me, no matter how much you try to reflect my refined rhetorical syntactical predisposition. You will never be me. It'll always be just this ridiculously lame imitation. No matter how much you appropriate my phrases, trust but verify. No matter how much you study my breakdown of Hybel, you are a weak imitation, and that's why you will never be able to do what I do. Shame on you. Do something original for once. Either be good or be good at it.
She just said that they were lazy. And then she said, but of course, Tully would never click on my links. He would actually go out and do the work himself. Which is it? There's no way. They used her files in front of the grand jury and the way that she renamed them. And she just says, no big deal. I would just save them. And then name them highly inflammatory. She doesn't admit that they're highly inflammatory names, but it's not my fault that they used them because Tully in an affidavit said that this is what he did. And he needs to get on the stand at an evidentiary hearing and get under oath and answer some questions from Bettero. And so does she, because this is outrageous. What they're doing to Aiden Cartier is outrageous. You might not like the things he says or the way he says them or the words that he uses to say them, but he's got the right to say them, and he shouldn't be facing up to 100 years in jail for saying them and for asking questions the way that old school 60 Minutes reporters used to do, right? by knocking on doors. Listen, the witness intimidation statute, as you know, was enacted to protect victims of DV, right? Because the perpetrator oftentimes would threaten them and say, if you testify against me, I'm going to kill you, right? It's like classic witness intimidation is finding a horse's head in your bed, right? Or a finger in a box in your mailbox. That's witness intimidation. This
Let me
is
give you an
asking
example.
questions.
Yeah, let me give you an example of witness intimidation. So say like somebody like was trying to pressure you because you changed your stance on the like cover up of John O'Keefe's death, or what's happening to Aiden Turboy Carney, hypothetically. And let's say they came to you and were like, listen, like this has gone too far. If you don't stop, we are going to humiliate you publicly through the legal process. You know, because, you know, and let's say they do it like through a family member, by proxy, whatever it may be. Right? That's exactly how these people operate. And they like to think it's funny. It's not. It's lowbrow. It's insulting. Okay. I have real serious problems to address in the world. I don't have time for the superficial ones. And this is not high school. All right. This is ridiculous what they've done. It's a disgrace to the justice system. The Norfolk DA should repent. He needs to pray a lot. He needs to look himself in the mirror, and he needs to determine whether what he has done here is an adequate reflection of the sanctity of the juridical process. He's caused the public, not only in the United States, but around the world, because of one person, fundamentally, and one bad state police unit, whatever the reasons are that they got so nervous that they had to go wild over these cases, and we can talk more about that. They allowed themselves to compromise the public's faith in my justice system, and I have a problem with that, and we need apologies before anyone can move on. And I'm serious, there are bad things happening in the world. We don't have time to relitigate this ridiculous situation for 20 years. The people who are responsible need to admit what they did wrong. We need to actually criminally charge some of them, in my opinion, once Adam Deitch is in office. And then we need to move on, because this is ridiculous. And the continued like degradation of public discourse in the pursuit of that cover-up has hurt innumerable innocents. No kids, no women, no innocents, no civilians. This is disgusting. These people have no standards. There used to be honor in this. They have none.
Yeah, because a good prosecutor looks for the truth, not just a conviction. And a good prosecutor would be out there looking for the truth. They wouldn't be fighting tooth and nail to keep every expert witness that Karen wanted on the stand from testifying, because they would want to get to the truth.
A good prosecutor goes to law school and does not cosplay as one on Discord because they got fired and they can't marry the man who was never going to love them to begin with.
I don't know who you're talking about now.
Kate Peter.
Do you think so? You think Michael Marcy was in those Discord groups?
Yeah, Michael. Listen, Michael Morrissey really bothers me because I got a lot of sources in government, and they told me it's not Michael Morrissey, it's the guys around him. But you know what? Silence is complicity, and if he got a taste and he liked it and enabled it because they had dirt on him, he's just as at fault. You can give him a cooperation agreement, fine. Let me freaking charge him. I was recruited by the DOJ. I turned them down. First year law school, coolest experience of my life. They scary though. I'll tell it because I think you'll appreciate it. I was in my 1L class, and the professor is like, they're gonna have to change their methods now. The professor's like giving a long lecture on con law. She was very smart, and she says, "Oh, there's a PDF on the Canvas page if you all want to come to the DOJ honors event." Okay, she just moves on. She just like very quick in a long lecture. And so after class, I go on the Canvas page for con law, 386 PDFs. I go through every single one of them by hand. No DOJ honors PDF. Thought maybe it was mislabeled. So I email her. She emails me back, Grant, don't get this out, please. I went to a room. I won't say where. I was locked in the room. It was me and my colleague who I brought with me because I thought she wanted to be a federal agent. I was right. And then it was 4 girls from Northeastern. I won't tell you where this room is. They locked us in the room. In the room were multiple federal judges, a lot of federal agents, and then some professors. And they said, hello, these are the 75 sections of the DOJ. The DOJ honors program is the only way to work for the DOJ directly out of law school. And then they talked to us a little bit, and then they were like, would you like some bagels? And then we ate bagels. It was really nice. Anyway, so then I walked out of that building, and two things happened that blew my mind. Firstly, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, they have some interesting sections. I wonder what I would like to do. I'm going to think about this. Nope. 24 hours later, I get an email from multiple DOJ email addresses being like, welcome to the antitrust section of the federal bar. Well, okay, I love Edith Tarbell, and I do ward off regulatory oligopolies via cogent public policy, but I don't really want to work for the antitrust section, and I'm terrified that you profiled me and decided to recruit me into that within 24 hours of me being in that room. Then my friend, who I'll speak very vaguely about, they were like, well, Grant, I got a follow-up that told me to go to this office building. So I went to this office building, and, I get in the building, and there's no signs. It's just a bunch of, like, cubicles and offices with lawyers' names on them. And they were like, I went into the room, and the nice people started interviewing me. And I didn't know what they were interviewing me for, but then they asked if I could pass the background check. So I gave my information, and then I never saw her again.
Wow. That's a good story.
It was great.
All right, back to the matter at hand is when is it that you realized that you had been, I don't know, duped, recruited? How is it? A lot of people want to know how it is that you went from, I guess, believing that Karen Reed is guilty. You're frozen right with a doobie. Okay, there we go. How is it that you went from believing that Karen Reed was guilty to seeing what we all see here is that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car and a car did not hit John O'Keefe, and that you may have been manipulated?
The Mystery Man video.
Duped.
Absolutely, the Mystery Man video. I was already on guard because of all of these ops and various things we talked about. So in the fall of 2025, when we got the actual Canton PD Sallyport video, when I actually was able to analyze it, I put my towel skills to use, and I am very good at like forensic video analysis. And I don't mean like the nonsense stuff people throw out about like MD5 data. No. You look at the damn video, you look for anchors, you try to understand if it's like manipulated. And I saw Michael Proctor and an unknown man next to Karen Reed's taillight when footage was obviously manipulated, okay, ex post facto, from the Canton PD Sallyport between 5:37 and 5:39 p.m. on January 29, 2022. According to the CERT team report, the first pieces of that taillight were found at 5:45 p.m., which means somebody, I believe, two people, maybe three, took pieces of that taillight. They pried it off that car and took it over to the lawn. Now, I think Berkowitz was probably involved, Chief Berkowitz. I think his son might have been involved. I think there's other people who might have been involved. But who that mystery man is, I don't really know. I know who was card swiping in and around there. And then once we got FOIAs and I saw what Judge Cannoni didn't let the public find out about, because remember, Karen Reed got discovery from the Norfolk DA that we did not get publicly until the FOIAs because of the wonderful Corey A. Hopkins, attorney Corey A. Hopkins, Marbury.
Queen Corey.
Twitter, yeah, Queen Corey for sure, doing great work. Because of that, there were rolling productions every 2 weeks on Friday of all of the discovery material, albeit redacted, from the Karen Reed trial 1 and 2. That's also how we got the SADBAS, redacted though they may have been. As a result of that, it became very clear. I got a second Sallyport video from outside that had a timestamp. I was then able to anchor the interior footage, which did not have a timestamp, to the exterior footage and track that there's 90 seconds of footage that is missing from the interior camera from 5:37 to 5:39 on January 29, 2022. And then there's 30 seconds from 5:39, like 03 to 5:39:34, where missing on both cameras, where the three men are standing next to that taillight, Michael Proctor and two other men. And I think that was what they tried to keep from Karen's team by overloading her with information and furthermore keeping this from the public under order so she couldn't crowdsource the investigation of it. Once I put that together and I saw the text between John O'Keefe and Brian Higgins about prostitutes in the fall of 2021. And
wait, what?
Like,
wait, what? Prostitute? Wait, you said something about prostitutes. I didn't catch it. Say that again. Fall
yeah,
of 2021.
There are, you can see it at the top of my X feed. There are text messages between John O'Keefe and Brian Higgins, where after the Patriots lost to the Indianapolis Colts on December 18th, 2021, I believe, John O'Keefe went home from the bar early where he was hanging out with Higgins, and he messages Higgins and is like, listen, I'm sending these 4 WHORES home. They have a 3-hour minimum, and I don't want to pay it. Now, if you know anything, which most people shouldn't, about this, and I only know about this because I want to eradicate it. I believe it enables human trafficking. There are escorts that will come to your home for a set amount of time. There are like brothels where you go, and then there are like street prostitutes.
Right.
John was clearly talking about escorts with Higgins. Clearly. Okay? So once I saw that, I was even more mad because I don't believe John O'Keefe on a unit at the Boston PD that does undercover SA investigations targeting kids. That's what this unit is known for. Don't believe me? Look it up. You can see the police reports and the various news reports about that unit. I don't believe John O'Keefe was hanging out with the Currans and buying prostitutes and talking about it with Brian Higgins. Nope, I don't buy it. Nope, not in a million years. Nope. John was the type of guy who would report a drug deal outside his home.
Right.
I think he's buying prostitutes. No, he was spying on them, clearly, in my opinion. And people want to know what this all goes back to.
John was spying on okay, wait. So John was spying on Higgins a little over a month before his murder.
Multiple months. Like he was doing it in November. Like there's this other couple that are mentioned in those FOIA texts between John and Higgins. I still don't know who they are. Like one of them has a Spanish name, the girl, and then there's a guy. I don't know what Johnny was. They call him Johnny in the filing, so I got in a bad habit of saying that. I don't know what John was on to. I really don't. But I have some idea of how the feds, like this is big, because the feds would not have I think they were putting a lot of resources into this. I think the trials were the investigation. I think the Norfolk DA got caught up. Because you got to remember, Brian Tully was poking around in like December of 2023 trying to ask who the target of the federal grand jury was.
Oh,
Farwell, that grand jury started in August of 2023. You know how I know? Because at the press conference in August of 2024, when Josh Levy announced the charges, he said it started 1 year earlier. Now, we know from the Jessica Leslie grand jury that state police corruption grand jury was impaneled on May 26, 2022 by Judge Indra Talwani. What did it do over the time we know about? It indicted the MSP Troop F overtime scandal. Mm-hmm. It indicted Farwell, did the CDL scandal. Mm-hmm. It disbands after Leslie gets caught leaking, and then it re-establishes itself. How do we know? Because Farwell gets caught up on a second superseding indictment in the fall of 2025 for the murder of Sandra Birchmore's unborn baby boy, 8 to 10 week old baby boy. And that was the same state police unit, Brian Tully's, that investigated Karen and Aiden. I believe the trials, including Aiden's, have been the investigation. That's my overarching theory. And I believe that what the state police and the Norfolk DA and Kate Peter never put together is while they thought they were actually like owning or poning, in the words of underdeveloped children, Aiden Carney, they were actually being investigated by a very serious DOJ who is not playing games and does not like what happened to some women. I can't speak for them. I don't know nothing about nothing. But does not like what happened to some women and children in the orbit of these cases. But I don't know nothing about nothing.
Okay, hold that. So Jennifer McCabe gets visited by the FBI in April of 2023, which is before, and she gets visited by the FBI before Aiden Carney wrote one article about them or this case. It was already happening. And the reason that the Chewy dump was dropped on Karen's team and Lally was because they thought, in my opinion, that once they gave them all of this exculpatory information, that the charges would be dropped. Because Josh Levy said in good conscience, I can't allow this case to go to trial. Here's everything, or not everything. Here's some of the stuff that we have that should be enough to make any prosecutor with integrity say, listen, John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. What the F are we doing here, right?
And so if they did go through with the trial, then the feds might have been like, wait a minute. So what's going on here? Maybe, Attorney Little, maybe you could explain, what's a perjury trap?
Oh, it's when you try and get somebody to lie, to get them to commit perjury so that you have something to charge them with that is a way to hold them, right?
So say yeah, now the federal system, as
like
far as I know, yeah, like a federal subpoena works a little different than a state subpoena. A federal subpoena to like Apple or Google would have a mandate that it not be disclosed by the records provider in all the time. I've seen these disclosed.
Yeah.
So you might hypothetically get like all of the records you want, like, and you don't have to do it through the third party provider. If you get in proximity to a target with a judicial warrant, like, you can clone. Come on, cloning's not that hard.
Right.
You never cloned a phone. So anyway, what do I don't know nothing about nothing. I've never cloned anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
You know a lot about a lot. You just know how it's done.
These are not the droids you're looking for. But anyway, so if, for example, hypothetically, you had a full record of everything on Jen McCabe's phone, and you had a full record of everything on Michael Proctor's phone, you might want to see if what the Norfolk DA turns over through their Rule 14 obligations has anything different than what you have. And then if they pushed it, you might really just let them like testify, go through like federal grand juries, get them on the record for 18 USC 1001 purposes, and then just let it all play out. The Fed's got a long memory, even longer statute of limitations, and then just bang them up.
No statute of limitations on murder.
Yeah, what's the statute of limitations on perjury related to a murder trial federally? Probably 10 years.
I don't know. In some jurisdictions, it carries the same sentence as the underlying crime, I think. So that's interesting. Another thing that hasn't been talked about enough, I guess. Well, I mean, God, there's so much to unpack here. Where do we even go with this? Let's see what the chat wants to talk about. Brian Higgins, John O'Keefe, these text messages are 1 month before his murder, or a little, and they had been ongoing, you're saying. I don't remember seeing those text messages.
They're at the top of they came out of a FOIA. Now, the reason nobody saw them is, remember how Brian Higgins was allowed to extract his phone? Remember that fascinating story?
Oh, yeah, he went to the FBI kiosk and just cherry picked his messages and then brought them in all printed up with a binder clip, maybe.
It turns out how they were printed is in this very, very minuscule form where you have to zoom in. The magic of modern technology. I was able to zoom in. Now, when you read them, oh my God, this is only what he was willing to turn over. Listen to me, all of you. If there are any records of Brian Higgins' communication with Proctor on that Proctor phone dump, that's wild. Second of all, what Brian Higgins did turn over, okay, was bad. It involved, and this was only what he was willing to give them. It involved like discussion of prostitutes, as I mentioned, and other things. Okay. So that's John and Higgins were talking about being overcharged for beers at restaurants. What you all must understand is related to the Sandra Birchmore case. There's very strong evidence that there was a series of restaurants, one in Stoughton, one in Dedham, one in Boston, and this is just one network, where you could go and you could order girls from the waitresses. And in the back was a suite or a dorm where you could sleep with them, okay? So nobody complains about being overcharged for beers, but somebody might complain about being overcharged for a rate with a girl for the night, or for an hour or two. Now, here's what's even more wild. If you look at generally, like the way those networks were set up, this guy, Robert Devine, he was the deputy chief of police in Stoughton.
We just did a deep dive on Robert Devine recently. Yeah. Sandra Birchmore.
In 2000, yep. Then I'm going to talk about Birchmore. So in 2006, Robert Devine sets up the Police Explorers program. As you know, that Sandra Birchmore was in. Right before Robert Devine does that, who comes to scout property in Stoughton but Ghislaine Maxwell? Right as Robert Devine's setting up.
Ghislaine Maxwell? Oh, interesting.
Now you might say that's a little attenuated. Oh yeah, it is. Well, the Epstein files eventually come out, and wouldn't you know it, the parent charity of Police Explorers, do you know what it was? Learning for Life. And wouldn't you know it, there's an email in the Epstein files from someone saying, "I'm so sorry, Ghislaine, that I wasn't a better ambassador for you on behalf of Learning for Life." Oh, interesting. So jump forward to 2014 with the Jeffrey Epstein going to Stoughton. Jump forward to Sandra Birchmore being in the Police Explorers program. Jump forward to Jeffrey Epstein being in the area of Amelia's. Jump forward to 2021. Sandra Birchmore is murdered brutally by alleged the federal government by Matthew Farwell on February 1st, 2021, between 9:27 p.m. and 9:53 p.m. Okay, on February 4th of 2021, who but Kevin Albert and the Canton PD respond to Sandra Birchmore's apartment for a wellness check. They then call in who but Brian Tully's and John Fanning's state police unit, that same state police unit, whereupon in 48 hours, the Canton police find evidence that Matthew Farwell was the man on video camera at Sandra's apartment at the time of her death. They knew it was the time of her death because her phone drained in battery, which enabled them to determine the TOD. And then they also, the Canton police went to Sandra's school where they got information that Farwell said that if Sandra was going to carry her unborn baby to term, Farwell was going to take care of the problem himself. Somehow, John Fanning and Brian Tully, remember, Brian Tully's the detective lieutenant, runs the Norfolk DA State Police Detectives Unit. John Fanning is his first officer. Right under him, Yuri Buchanan's the sergeant, and then under them are like Proctor, Nick Garino, that name comes up in both cases, etc. These troopers somehow write a report in 2021 exonerating Matthew Farwell for the murder of Sandra Birchmore.
Yep. Fanning
And
quickly cleared him after interviewing him in a parking lot. Go ahead.
Yes, and John Fanning and Yuri used to work in Stoughton. That was the last thing I had to say as cops.
Right. And anybody could put those pieces together. And then Garino was involved in that too, because like allegedly he missed a whole bunch of text messages in Farwell's phone. Farwell gave up his phone. Meanwhile, they had Sandra's laptop, and all of those iMessages were on her laptop, something like 34,000 of them, going back to however long, talking about how he took her virginity when she was 15, openly discussing it, his disgusting fantasies and all of that other garbage. And to this day, there have been no state charges brought against Farwell. And I'm going to tell you all that a murder case against Matthew Farwell is much more difficult to prove in federal court than it is in state court. And again, I think that once the feds arrested Farwell and have been dumping all of this evidence into the public docket, they thought that the Norfolk DA's office would bring charges against Farwell, which they still have not done. Ask yourselves why.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And two things. Have you ever heard of the 3-dot tattoo?
No.
Mi vida loca. It's more common in like impoverished Spanish communities, but it means there's 3 ways out: death, prison, or I don't know what the third one is, disappearing, but it's not good. That's one form of this tattoo. Another form, have you ever heard of the butterfly tattoo? Mm-hmm. Came up a lot in the early 2000s. I think it was like a book, The Girl with the Butterfly Tattoo. There were a lot of people who got butterfly tattoos in that time. And those girls in particular tend to work in certain worlds where they have clients who they can't acknowledge in public, and they have colleagues who they know who they are, but they all use fake names with each other. So they identify each other by the tattoo. And that's what we've run into here. And unlike some lives, some like organized crime worlds where you go out in a body bag or you go to jail, in this world, the girls either went out through fake criminal charges or murders that were covered up and blamed on other people. And anyone who asked questions got it the same.
Project Monarch, Stacey says.
It's more, this is called wet work. If you've ever, it's not, a lot of people have heard of this through apocryphal stories in like The Irishman. They talk about painting houses. That's not what wet work is. This is wet work. Wet work is really getting your hands dirty. And you need guys, if you're going to have this kind of system and the girls get out of line and they're going to talk, you need guys who can get them on trumped up charges or kill them or both.
Wow. So this goes, again, far deeper than Karen Reed. Why is it that you think that a guy like Proctor, let's just say, if he did plant taillight or was helping these people out, you know, did you watch the videos of Julie Albert, Chris Albert, like those MSP, those Rule 14 interviews that came out? Did you watch them?
The most fascinating part of those interviews was when Julie Albert was asked. Remember, if you look at the timeline, she had 3 interviews. The first one was before Chris Albert's. Julie Albert was well, first of all, Proctor admitted that at the federal grand jury, he was asked about his connections with Chris and Julie Albert. Second of all, oh, God bless you, Josie Lou, you're wonderful. Second of all, if you look at the temporal timeline of the events, Julie Albert's interviewed first. She's asked, can we search your phone to look for contacts with one of Michael Proctor's 4 numbers? She says, I need to get back to you. Okay. She comes back for a second interview on the same day that Chris Albert does his first interview. Chris Albert knew the question.
Yep.
We searched your phone to look for Michael Proctor's number. Did you see how easy he let the phone over? You see where he got tripped up though? When they said, can we search your phone for mentions of the name Michael?
Yeah. I said, I don't want anybody, there may be messages where I say Michael Proctor's a dick. Like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So I think there are a lot of conversations in his phone that have to do with Michael Proctor that were not to and from Michael Proctor.
Yeah,
which
and
is,
and you know what makes them, you know what really screws them? Not only do I think there were messages about Michael Proctor, I think there were messages with Michael Proctor. And I think no one knew. Because remember, Michael Proctor's phone extraction that the Norfolk DA got in August of 2025 came out through the Miles King case, as I know, because I've been covering, No one knew that was coming. In fact, I'm very interested in your thoughts as to how that happened. Because let's think of the timeline. July 2025, Michael Proctor's lawyer twice asserts in front of Judge Doolin that there is no responsive messages, even to the expanded order in the King case going back like 12 years, none to Judge's order. 2 months later, in August of and Proctor also says he got rid of his old phone in November 2024 and his new phone auto deletes every 30 days. He's saying that as recently as twice in July of 2025, in motions, formal court motions. So we have a record. In August of 2025, somehow Michael Proctor's phone gets, and I still don't understand how.
I know how it happened. So here's how it happened. So after Michael Proctor testifies in front of the federal grand jury in February of 2024, that is when he reset his settings, because Fanning and Tully went to his house to do a wellness check. They found out about what was revealed during his grand jury testimony and all of the messages that were very damaging. That was only the little teeny a droplet of an iceberg, right? So Fanning says he has to sign an NDA. Tully has to sign an NDA. They can't tell anybody about the messages. So he keeps getting 5-star reviews, right, throughout that year. So then there was an order. Before that, Miles King had made a motion. Rosemary made a motion for Miles King to get the phone extraction because of the Karen Reed stuff. And I think it was Krupp who initially put a time limit on it and said, you can only have messages from the day of his arrest, right, or the day of the murder of Marquise Simmons up until a certain point. And then there was a second decision, and I forget, it might have been Doolin, because Doolin ain't no.
It was
Doolin,
Judge.
right?
It was our hero, Judge Doolin.
Right, and he said, you know what? I don't care. There's no time limit. They can have everything. And that's when Proctor's attorney said, wait a second. Okay, we'll give you the phone, but listen, in February of 2024, he reset his settings to auto delete everything after 30 days, so you're not going to get anything. Maybe you'll get 30 days, whatevs. Here you go. Here's the phone. The Commonwealth got it. I forget who the ADA was, and they downloaded it, and they got the entire extraction, everything, going back.
Yeah, but okay, so
to
I agree
2012.
with you on almost all that, except there's one key detail that, and I just see documents, so I think I'm right on this. It's not that he changed his settings in the fall of 2024. It's that he said he got rid of his old phone, got a new phone, and this is operative because what I believe the Proctorgate documents is not an iCloud dump. I believe it is a forensic extraction of the original device through, and we don't know exactly when it runs through. It's a little unclear. Rosemary said 12 years, so probably 2024. I think I know what happened.
What do you think?
You know what happened too. I used the clone word earlier.
Oh, you think somebody cloned his phone after
I
his
think
federal grand jury testimony, after the feds got all the information on him?
the feds would never do something like tell you they only have 3 months of your records when they really have all of
Right.
them. They would never. No, not the feds. They would.
I mean,
Yes, they would.
the feds
Yes, they would.
also the feds also got the family group text messages, right? How did they get those? Tell them the guy never went in the house, right? Don't text about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. So they have so much more information from Jennifer McCabe, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert than we could even imagine. It was just a very select portion of them that were turned over to Karen Reed's team and Adam Lally, thinking Lally would do the right thing by Michael Marcy, and they didn't do it.
I've heard of one investigation, Operation. Well, I'll get you the exact name. Someone on Twitter posted. I'm sure they're going to hear me say this and be like, "Great, you forgot it again." It's Operation like True Rock.
Oh, you just broke up. Operation True what? Wait. Hold that thought.
I'm back.
Okay.
I know of one operation. It's something like Operation like True something in like 1982. The DOJ used good cops and good lawyers and good judges to get corrupt, like 82 corrupt judges and cops. I've heard of it. It would be like out of a very old school playbook, and people don't understand what the federal government is. It's kind of an amorphous entity on purpose so that you can't study it and be a criminal effectively. They only let certain people even learn about how it works. I don't even know how it really works. And that's telling, because the whole point of this is to specifically allow them to run game on targets of investigations. And if you're going to target paramilitary intelligence operatives like the state police in Massachusetts and their informants and their judges and their like lawyers, you better be ready to go to war, and you better come like packing. And that's exactly what Josh Levy did.
Yeah. Who do you think they're really protecting here?
The best.
I mean, is Brian Albert that powerful? Is Brian Albert, does he know all the secrets? Because remember, somebody said, Higgins said at Berkowitz's retirement party, that's been scrubbed from the internet, but he said, listen, you know, if you want to bury a body, Ken Berkowitz is your guy. I mean, are the Alberts that powerful that people would essentially in law enforcement and in DA's offices work for them? I don't know the answer to that. Do you?
I think the answer to that is it really depends on who was at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center on the night that the older Sarnaev brother was killed in Watertown. So I know that sounds very weird and obscure. It's not. Shout out Michelle McPhee. It's not. There's a reason Sandra Birchmore is the focus of Michelle McPhee's attention, in my opinion. Michelle McPhee wrote the Newsweek articles on the Boston bombing that you want to learn about, like the Chechen connection.
Yeah.
So like, just so you understand.
Who's Sarnaev, and when is this? When did this happen?
So this is actually, I was 5 miles away, but I was on the marathon route that day. I was at, I was right next to St. Ignatius in the Mods. This
is the Boston Marathon bombing. Okay. Yeah.
I was on the route that day. I was not at the finish line. I was 5 miles away, but it was very traumatizing. They bum rushed the campus with cops and they locked us down. And then to get food, they had priests, Jesuits as human shields, walking us to the dining hall in case the killers were at like our campus and just started shooting. Their plan was to have the priests throw their bodies in front of the students. That's how bad it got in like the moments after, because the guys ran. And we were like, I was at Boston College, so I'm mile 21. The finish line's mile 26. They didn't know where these dudes were. They thought they were going to like come up Com Ave and come start like shooting people. So they had to like guard us. We weren't allowed to like go home. It was very scary.
Wow.
So it didn't directly touch me, but I certainly was like very much impacted. It was very traumatizing. It was horrifying. These guys were bad news. They really horrified that. Like, I don't know if people understand. It wasn't just a bombing in the city. That was terrifying. It was that they didn't get them. So like every like area around Boston, I'm talking like Cambridge, Chestnut Hill, Belmont, Watertown, Arlington, Somerville, Medford, they had to like shut these places down because they didn't know if these dudes were just going to pop up and just start shooting at people or hurting them. All right, well, I live in Belmont. Okay, that's where my family home is. I was at school at Boston College. These dudes get hunted down, as you know, after they shoot Officer Collier at the Shell station on Memorial Drive. These dudes get hunted down to Watertown, right behind the 7-Eleven, where they get cornered in a neighborhood. The older brother gets taken alive, which I can prove. I have CBS footage from that night. The younger brother escapes and gets found the next day on a boat. And I'm going to explain to you some very important things. One, you got to understand.
Remind us what year this was. What year was this?
2014, I think. People may want to double check that. It was, I think, 2013, 2014. The year that David Ortiz said, "This is our effing city." That was great. So, because we have a baseball game on the same day as the marathon, it's like an 11:20 a.m. start. And
2013. Okay.
2013.
Got it.
So in 2011, there was a triple homicide in Waltham. Okay. Now, the guy who was murdered was like Eric Weiserman. He was a co-founder of something called Hitman Glass. But I need to just be direct with you. What they were actually doing was moving weed. Now, they were known for a strain called Snowcap. Okay, this was like B-grade New England stuff that was like filler before the legal market. It was like filler when the like illegal market couldn't get the A-grade from Cali, which is really B-grade in Cali. But when they couldn't get that stuff, they would get the Snowcap, which was like an early gelato. It had a very like cool, like minty taste, but it didn't have the refined palate of like a gelato. That's how I describe Snowcap. But that was Eric's strain. So Eric was moving a lot of weed, and the younger.
We're talking about weed. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is important because their bodies end up sprinkled with weed ritualistically. It's very relevant. The younger brother, Tamerlan, who's in Supermax right now out in Florence, he was selling weed down at UMass Dartmouth. He was a dealer, and he was buying from these dudes. And these dudes also knew the older brother through the MMA gym in Cambridge. But that's not where it gets wild. The three brothers get murdered ritualistically, not brothers. The three weed dealers in Waltham, look up 2011 Waltham triple homicide. They get murdered ritualistically, no robbery. Somebody kills them and sprinkles pounds of weed over their body as a message, almost like someone's older brother had got radicalized and then committed a murder because those guys wouldn't stop selling weed to his younger brother because that was enabling the younger brother to deal. Now, what's even weirder? Well, normally you would expect a radical Islamic militant who commits a triple homicide to be immediately caught by the FBI. What you wouldn't expect is for that guy to then go over to Chechnya and start hanging around radical Islamic militants to the point where the Russian government, remember, Chechnya is a separatist region, but it's controlled by Russia. The Russian government, it orders him returned to America for liaising with jihadi separatists in Chechnya in 2013. And then, wouldn't you know it, he shows up in 2014 and his burn notice clearly was being sent to kill innocents. Okay. So that was probably a jihadist attack that was enabled, because remember what happened right around 2013. There was the sequester of defense appropriations. So right before that, that was
about everything.
I know.
You know everything about everything. I mean, your brain is like the amount of stuff that's in your brain blows my mind. Go on.
Yeah, and I live some of this too. So it gets here. I'm about to tell you something not even Michelle McPhee knows. So here's where this gets wild. Go back to Waltham, 2013. After these guys have shot the MIT cop over by the Shell station, they steal the Asian guy's car and they flee down Memorial Drive into Waltham, and they Watertown, excuse me, and they get to the 7-Eleven off Mount Auburn Street. They get out of the car. The older brother is arrested naked and alive. There's footage of this on WBZ. I have it saved. Okay. This is where it gets wild. They put out a flurry of news reports that they're going to take this dude to Mount Auburn Hospital, which would make sense because Mount Auburn Hospital in Cambridge, it's on Tory Row. So it's like the closest hospital to Watertown. It's literally right down Mount Auburn Street. You go past the Star Market on the left, the graveyard on the right, you get to Mount Auburn Hospital. It's not where they took him. They took him, and you can fact check this, to BIDMC, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. Well, telling those people. And I definitely knew someone who was in that hospital that night. And I'll tell you what happened. The ambulance drivers who got there with the older brother said they got him from another ambulance dead. That's what they said. That's what the ambulance driver said about the older brother. The younger brother is brought in the next day after he's found in a boat. And here's how the wounds were described to me. Contemporaneously, that's how good my sources were at the time. Contemporaneously, a shot through the femoral artery, a shot through the hand, and what was described as a precision shot through the tongue and the cheek that prevented the younger brother from speaking.
Oh,
that's not what his injuries look like when he's getting out of that boat. He's shot, I think, in the leg, maybe the hand. He's bleeding, but he does not have a gunshot through his face. All right, now let's think about something more interesting. It would be really interesting if, who almost became director of Homeland Security after that incident? Do you remember? Eddie Davis. He knows my mom. Used to be the Boston police commissioner at the time. What if some Boston police officers, whose names we've been talking about, maybe an ATF agent, responded to Watertown that night?
Oh, Brian Higgins?
I don't know. What if they were at BIDMC? What if they did a really good job?
Look at what Rambo John says. Can't wait until he gets to the connection between Brian Albert's power and the Boston Marathon bombing. Rambo John has predicted this.
What if these people did a really good job? You'd be set for life. You did a good job.
Payback's a bitch.
Well, I'd say it's more like, you know, you got to do some things for your country sometimes. We'll take care of you until we can't. Don't get caught in Radio Havana in 1962 pretending to be a journalist. Let's put it that way.
Huh.
We can't save you then.
It's all interesting. A lot of people would say tinfoil hat, but then there's a lot of people in the chat who are like, Grant knows exactly what he's talking about, and he's putting all the pieces together in a way that nobody ever has before. And I think Julie Jensen's like, all connected. Holy crap.
I told people I was gonna juridically roar. I just needed to wait for the justice system to come to catch up. You don't understand. I think a lot of you wanted me to roar, but I don't like to roar until I know we're good to go. I got to line up all the pieces and then we can roar. Now I'm ready to roar.
You're roaring. You're roaring. A lot of people are worried about your safety. Are you worried about your safety? Are you safe?
Come for an American journalist on American soil who's reported information to the feds. See what happens.
Your mom, well, I don't want to really talk about your mom actually, but apparently she was like a hotshot in the 90s. I heard you talking about it the other day on another show, dancing on tables, hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, like a full-on
We absolutely got to talk about my mom.
Thing.
We absolutely got to talk about her because she's been hanging out with Michael Proctor's uncle-in-law, Liz Syracuse's uncle, who's a statey.
So she's dating Michael Proctor's like uncle?
I don't know if they're dating. They hang out on Fridays. He's kind of weird. I should talk Brian Tully to him a lot. I don't talk to him no more, though. I don't trust him.
Do you think that they're trying to infiltrate your mother, too?
She's very easily impressionable, and they have a target. They target powerful people who, you know, need money. Maybe they're cash poor because they went through a divorce and only got a house and didn't get any cash. Maybe they buy them cars, register them in Florida. I don't know.
A lot of Florida talk. What is the connection? What goes on in Florida?
Yeah, and why does Jen Coffindaffer's boss, one of her 6 bosses, why was he on a naval dive team with a guy who works with someone that definitely knows Sean McDonough? Like, what's the deal with that? You know, I got questions.
I don't know.
Like, what? You know what the Innocence Project is, I'm sure, right? Like, they do work to like expose governmental corruption.
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory that there is a secret private intelligence-based operation to counter the Innocence Project that is run by law enforcement and prosecutors throughout the country that puts that is deployed in certain cases, Richard Allen, and in turn puts pressure on criminal defendants to plead guilty before trial by infiltrating their lives, obtaining derogatory information about them and their family, and then threatening them and putting charges on them when they don't play ball. And that's not okay. You want to do that in the UK? Not my bag. You do that on American soil, you violated the sanctity of my Constitution. I don't care how lucrative it is. I'm coming for you. I'll regulate you out of existence, and then I'll put you in jail if I can.
What happened to Richard Allen is abhorrent, abhorrent. And the man was tortured in custody. Like, fight me on it. People don't understand. Like, we could get into that a whole other time because this conversation is nowhere near finished. But yeah, I can name a couple of others too that I'm thinking of. There are some people that have been railroaded.
Which means it becomes.
Edric Foss is another one.
Which means it becomes a proxy war. It becomes a proxy war between these forces that use the justice system to cover up crimes through patsy. The perfect crime is not one which is unsolved. The perfect crime is where someone else gets blamed.
Of course, and that is why they tried so hard to convict Karen Reed twice. Okay, I don't know what happened inside 34 Fairview that night. I have long surmised that it could have very well been an accident. Could have been a dog who was overly stimulated, who wasn't good with strangers, that perhaps John kicked the dog because the dog was on top of him. Someone freaked out, hit him. Everything went bad from there, and drunk people make really bad decisions. It could have been something like that. Do you have a theory on what exactly happened that night, since you have come around to your initial thoughts that Karen Reed actually hit John O'Keefe with her car?
The answer to that question actually starts back at the waterfall. And I think you should think very carefully about who was initially trying to bring John O'Keefe over to Fairview and who was initially trying to bring Karen over to Fairview. Because the plan, if you think about it, walking out of that bar was maybe 10 minutes before was not for Karen and John to drive over. Now Kate was trying to drive John over. And that's
what Karina testified to that Jen was like, you're coming with me.
Which means the variable here, John was going to that house no matter what. The variable was Karen driving him over. They were thrilled that she drove away. I don't know what happened after that, but she screwed their plan up. I think initially they were going to bring her in on it. And because think about who they brought in. And all they had to do was be just go along with it. We got a lot of friends. Just go play your role. And I don't know if they were going to blame Lucky or just whatever. I have no idea what their plan was. But Karen, I think, was initially going to be brought in. I really do. I think they were going to bring her into that house and be like, listen, just shut up. We like you. Remember what someone said to her in the months before? We like you.
Do you think that John O'Keefe was onto something? Or do you think...
Yeah, of course he sent the video of the drug deal. Somebody was moving. Listen, it has to do with Route 138. And somebody... Okay, so let's pull big picture.
I don't want to keep you if you have somewhere to be.
No, I set aside time for this. I will eventually eat lunch after this, but I set aside time. I knew this would be interesting. One of the people think the biggest drug trafficking route in the United States is from California, the northern route over to the East Coast. No. The biggest drug trafficking route in the United States is 95 south to north, 100%. And once you
Florida.
Yeah, because it comes out of Florida. Once you get from New York, think about what you got to do. You could go up 84 through Connecticut and then go through Western Mass in Springfield and Worcester and then go up through Vermont. But does that sound like there's a lot of, you're going to get up to the Canadian market that way, #French connection. But does it sound like you're going to make a lot of money on that route? You're what are you going to sell in Waterville, Connecticut? You know where you're going to make some money? Hugging the coast on 95, going up Rhode Island through Providence, and then now things are going to make sense, going up the 95 corridor and hitting the split right at Canton, where you can go left up 95 and 128 through New Hampshire to Canada, or you can go right and take 93 strangely south to 93 north and go into Boston proper, right into the city. That is why Route 138 is so important. That's why Canton and Stoughton are a hotbed. That is the junction for a substantial amount of narcotic traffic that flows up, and you got to have it protected. You got to have it watched. You got to have guys making sure that stuff is flowing and not being touched. You really think that domestic drug dealers are going to hope that their shipments get through and do like the cartels do. No, it takes a lot of work to get those pill packages up here. And so they're not risking it getting taken. They got guys watching it, including the guys that would potentially pull them over, because you got to make sure no one touches the package. Therefore, you also got to drop the package in a place where you know no one's going to say nothing. And if somebody starts saying something about drops, you got a problem. And we have evidence that John was saying something. He broke the code. He stumbled onto something he didn't realize. I'd call it, back in the day, there were political cartoons about J.D. Rockefeller's empire and the trust, Northern Steel, J.P. Morgan, Wahlberg, the Rothschild, whatever you want to call them, the financial apparatus that created the fiat lending that has destroyed America. I like the silver.
Yeah.
I like the free silver movement of 1896. But if you think about it, there was cartoons that would depict Rockefeller's apparatus as an octopus. What John O'Keefe ran into in Massachusetts was not an octopus. It is what's called overlapping concentric social circles of influence that utilize soft power and hidden connections to esoterically control narratives and also the justice system. And he didn't know what he was up against. And the worst position to be in is like Michael Hastings, up against something you don't understand, because then all of a sudden your car is going to accelerate into a ball of flames and nobody's going to ask any questions. If you are not exceptionally publicly prolific, if you don't understand the government, you have to be very careful when you ask questions about people like this, and they will come for you. They'll try everything. And if you get through all of it, maybe if you have the stones, you can tell the story. And let me just say, there's a reason why the genre of true crime being defined by what Truman Capote did within Cold Blood is very appropriate, because Truman Capote did not tell that story of the Clutter family murders right. If you read And Every Word Is True from 1988, the son of the Kansas Bureau of Investigator who led that investigation, you're going to learn that Truman Capote went into Kansas and found out that was a political assassination. That guy, the patriarch of that family, was on President Carter's Agricultural Advisory Board. And the smoking gun is that there was a map at the time that the people in jail claimed that they had gotten from someone who worked on the Clutter family farm 4 years before. No. That map had the property markings from when those men were in jail. That Truman Capote covered up that murder, and true crime as a genre ever since has been literally destined to that fate. And we can save it through like this exact type of case, but there's a reason why true crime, and there's a reason Truman Capote almost lost his mind. He had to write Harper Lee like every day out in Kansas because he couldn't do it. He looked truth in the eye and he let her run around naked and shamed instead of liberating her. And I've been upset about that for a long time, and I'm not going to let it happen with this case or these cases.
It seems to me, looking at this from the outside, and John, I think even Karen took one of those videos of this kid that was dealing drugs outside the house allegedly. But it seems
that was Karen filming on John's phone, which John then sent to Kevin Albert.
So, and do you remember the time frame of that?
That was 2021.
Okay, so within a year of his murder. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but me looking at that, I'm like, that's a kid dealing drugs. He's like a kid.
No, it was different. The tip off is two things. So the video itself, if you look at it, the plates are from Florida. Second, the kid, when he takes the drop, it's on the passenger side, so you can't see him take the package out of the window. He gets it from the passenger though, and then he walks away with a very puffy belly. That's not weed. Those are pills. Think about how many pills you like M30s you could put in that, and they're mostly they're fake pressed Emmys, but the point is the same. Yeah, it's very dangerous. So that's not weed dealing. Like when you deal weed, you deal it in weight. We're talking and
it's a much bigger package.
And even if you're buying even if you're a low level dealer, you're shipping packages to empty homes and then having runners pick up the packages. You don't have to do a drop off with weight with Florida plates. Those are pills. So he's got a full belly full. I'm talking like 20, 30, 40,000 pills. Easy. I can't tell because I can't see what he gets, but it's obvious. I know what I'm looking for. Then what's even more wild is that John confronts him. We don't have video of this, but we have Kevin Albert calling into the station and the report about this. John confronts him with his badge, his BPD badge and gun out.
Yeah, the kid, right.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but that's neither here nor there for our purposes. For our purposes, the insight is that John's mad. John is not just going along to get along. That's not what someone who's on the take does. John is confronting this guy.
Right.
And the kid this is the most telling part. The kid in the moment says, "Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I won't do this again." But he then comes back the next day with no fear of John. He went to his bosses who told him we'll take care of him. I'm telling you, I can read this. I know we're going to find this out. And the scary part of this is I don't think the feds would have stumbled onto this but for Sandra Birchmore. I think they almost got away with this.
Isn't it ironic then that Kate Peter then fingers Colin Albert as a drug dealer?
Yeah, that was a little bit too much modified limited hangout. And you know what's even more terrifying? If you listen to Karen's interview with Rotten Mango, Karen says between February 2nd of 2022, the day of her initial arrest, and the day of her indictment in June of 2022, she thought, and I quote, they were going to come and do her like Sandra Birchmore. She knew from the jump.
Yeah.
And the thing is, only some people are smart enough to be able to put together an active defense against this type of apparatus.
Right.
This is not just public relations. This is not just a traditional criminal trial. You have to actually have operational security and fight what is in essence the intelligence community who uses blackmail and narrative control and psychological warfare to win. You have to like literally degrade their facade, pull back the curtain, and then they collapse. And that's what happened yesterday in Suffolk Superior Court. Things are so bad that the system, for pure purposes of self-preservation, had to make a 40-minute hearing about Kate Peters' role in compromising Aidan Carney's grand juries. I promise you they threw everything they could, judges, friends, connections, to make sure that never happened, and they failed. That's why yesterday was a turning point. It was glorious in every sense of the term. And that's why Kate Peter had a meltdown. One, they shouldn't have taken the bait. When something like that happens, it's not internet drama. A judge is talking. There were discussions. The trial court is talking, right? The walls talk, okay? The trial court is saying, it's sending a message. We've had enough. When something like that happens, you do not react. Okay, you cannot get out of that with PR. It's in the hands of the court. There's either going to be an evidentiary hearing, which we can talk about with Tully, Mello, or Kate, or there's not. Or there's going to be a decision on the motion to just move this away out of the public eye by dismissing it, so that we have to deal with the collapse of our judicial institutions. Okay, right. But what the judge did yesterday, when that happens, you do not take the bait, especially when all your operatives are burned. Think about it. Do you remember who linked up Aidan Carney and Karen Reed to begin with? None other than Jen Altman and Natalie the German, both of whom 3 months for Natalie, 2 years for Jen Altman, flipped and are now anti-Karen and anti-Aidan completely. They don't have their long cover moles. It takes a long time to build a reputation and get into someone's circle playing your character. They're left with a few D-list moles, and they burned them all yesterday because Kate Peter goes on tilt. That's why she burned the Netflix documentary. Do you know how much trouble Kate Peter got in when she revealed on X, without Gretchen Voss's permission, who's actually the powers behind the scenes with that Netflix documentary, although I don't think they can compete with Matt Damon. The point is, do you know how much trouble Kate Peter got in when she revealed to the world the existence of that Netflix documentary without Gretchen Voss's permission? Okay, because Kate Peter goes on tilt, can't control herself, and burns long-term assets in a moment of short-term thinking. And that's the difference. I loathe Michael Proctor and Kate Peter for the way they talk about disabled people. It's beneficial to be underestimated, so I've never just unloaded on them before, but it's time. People don't understand. You can have a mental disability in the sense that maybe your emotional reasoning is weaker than your analytical reasoning. That is a form of disability. What is actual mental illness is sociopathy and psychopathy. And
Right.
that is where you may think you are, a normal person, but you are actually vindictive. You are only focused on yourself to a fault. You react emotionally in important situations. You don't care about the government, your fellow citizens, God, being a good person. You're only focused on control. That is mental illness. Fundamentally, when you make fake accounts compulsively, hundreds of them,
Wow.
okay? When you do
Hundreds.
that to drive, not to defend yourself, but to drive a narrative of control. It's called a control drama. That is mental illness. So these people, when they project outwards about how those who are onto them are X, Y, or Z, what they're actually doing is betraying their latent drive for proxy psychological control over those who they cannot make bend to their will. And that's why I get very, very, very frustrated, because I think although it's now all collapsing, that is an insult. First of all, it's an insult to my intelligence. Second of all, it's an insult to the people who see exactly what's going on. And third of all, it's really, like, more so than anything else, an insult to, like, Kate Peter and Michael Proctor and those folks' own humanity. What they did was, through their own pompous and self-centered egoism, hubris, exactly, they opened themselves up to catharsis. They experienced a fall because of their own pride, and they deserved it. Right? Because they were so wrapped up in this world that they're better than everyone else, they're smarter than everyone else, they're more stable than everyone else, that they didn't see it coming. And that's really what I think is the story here. These people were very cocky, and they're very, like, bigoted and just judgmental.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's drugs. I don't know if it's just, like, disillusionment with life, victimization, like trauma, complex PTSD. I don't know. Maybe the Farwells were abused as kids. Does that absolve them of responsibility for what they're doing now?
No. Hell no. But you are right.
Work on yourselves.
That a lot of children who are abused grow up to be abusers, because think about it, that's your normal. That's the way that you grow up. If you have an experience like that when you're 5 years old, that shapes your normal, right? Lily Rose says, Melanie, you need to interview great. I know. It's a lot to take in. I know. We got to do this again. There's a lot of people. Let's look at some questions now, if you don't mind, and then I'm going to let you go eat lunch, because I got to go too. Grant,
I do like to rant sometimes, so thank you for letting me rant.
That's okay. They're used to me ranting all the time, so it's good to listen to somebody else rant, so that we get a little variety. Grant, you're so smart, says Scorpio Girl. Kudos for coming over to the Free Karen Read side. Thank you, Free 10. GL Glurtis says, Grant, I'm autistic too, and I've seen you go through a lot because of sticking your neck out to speak up. Being a neurodivergent, earnest person, I'm a fan of yours. I hope you never let anyone stop you. Chat Mom Lynn says, Grant telling us and teaching us all the things. DH Reed says, I'll be sending the same amount to Grant via Venmo. Oh my, how much I'm enjoying this stream. I'm learning everything. Love to you both. Thank you so much for your 5. Julie Jensen says, cupcakes and towels together on one stream. Thank you so much for your compliment. Tom CPU is here. He says, this goes way back with her. Grant's tie. Oh, are you wearing, is that a Joey Garcia tie?
That's a tie Tommy gifted me at Karen's hearing at Plymouth the other day. I thought he would notice it.
I love it. Tom CPU. Kelly says, we're in Narnia for sure. Grant has seen the light and is now on the good side, talking with Melanie and the cupcakes, and we are watching Kate Peter on a channel we all used to follow. Wild times. I love you with all my heart. Tom CPU, thank you. Says, I went to the Rolling Rally. I'm free. No charges. That's true. Just Now the History says, can I please just say that I love this side of Melanie Little, her willingness to think outside of the box and consider these theories. We need more attorneys like this in the world. Oh, thank you, sweetie, for your 20. And Cat Q coming in from Canada. Thank you so much for your super generous super chat. Thanks so much, Mel and Grant. Mel, your interviewing and listening skills are just amazing. Grant, brilliant, and you've brought everything in a whole much larger light. Thank you. We would love to see you both go deeper. There's so much. We haven't even scratched the surface. Under Your Scar says, amazing live. A ton of knowledge right here, you two. Thank you. Jackie said, Melly looks, oh, thank you so much. Jackie Beningo. That's Sam Beningo's sister. Thanks for being here, Jackie, for 3 months. Fairy Raven, Slancha, my Irish beauty, says, this is the show I didn't think I needed. Thank you, Melanie and Grant. This is fascinating. Deshai says, why is Greg Connor why is Greg Connor on the Lindsay bump? TikTok. Talk about that subpoena for a second, because we know it was fake, right? It's kind of like Kate Peters' federal lawsuit to YouTube, like a scratch and sniff.
Well, and Brian Tully then alleging Aiden forged that document. That's the wild part. In Tully's affidavit, he's like, I have no knowledge of Aiden forging a document in a copyright dispute with Kate Peter. Well, yeah, Tully, because Kate forged the damn document. But that subpoena, first of all, Greg Connor, he should drop out. I don't think he's going to win, but it's disgusting that he thinks it's appropriate for him to run. Like the Morrissey machine should just fall. Like what it needs to do is apologize, not try to perpetuate the system that's already there. But Greg Connor's name is on that subpoena. Although I think a grand jury did eventually happen because there were indictments in the fall of 2024 against Aiden, like subsequent indictments and a null pros, if you remember. I don't think there ever was going to be a grand jury on the day after Christmas in 2023.
I think it came out that at the grand, because they have the grand jury transcripts. I think it came out at the grand jury, the date prior to this, they had said, we may need you to come back in December. So I'm unclear about that.
But does that subpoena look real?
No, I think it
I've looked at other ones. It looks fake. Now, I'm not saying there was a grand jury that did come back. That's what confuses me. I know they had to have come back, but it almost seems like there was a setup, because if you think about it, that grand jury, the first one, indicted on December 20th.
Right. It was already done. Like Aiden's was already done.
And right away, they moved to like I've always said that in boxing, the difference between boxing and professional wrestling is in boxing, normally only one side knows it's a work, like Ali Liston 2 up in Maine. In professional wrestling, both sides know it's a work. In December of 2023, I don't think either Aiden or Lindsay knew it was a work. And that's what made it so subversive. And they, like you said earlier, they wound Aiden up and just waited to see what would happen. But the timing is the interesting point, because think about it, bound over indictment, and then immediately a move to do what Kate Peter is like bragging about, put Aiden in a situation where he could be jailed for catching new charges. And I really think that that's why Tully was manipulating this entire situation. It was actually to hit him bang, bang, put pressure on him, put him in jail, tell him that if he cooperated against Karen in the lead up to the March 2024 grand jury, to indict Karen so that they could revoke her bail and put more pressure on her to plea. You see what I'm saying? It spiraled. It got out of control, and everything is now collapsed. And the reality is, to pull it all together, Aiden's cases, right? If you think about it, there were 16 at first, then there were 18, then there were 20, then 6 were dismissed. There's 14 remaining, and then 2 were null pros, 12 remaining. But all of those ones that were either dismissed or null pros somehow have insulated, until yesterday, the case from Kate Peters' involvement directly regarding evidence or any other material involvement with the grand jury or investigative process that could compromise its integrity and lead to dismissal. Now that's changed. All of the 12 remaining indictments, including the window shop. Listen, do we really want to get to a situation where the people who were involved in what I believe was a gratuitous window shop setup, Kate Peters' friends, no less? Okay, now listen, you might be saying to yourself, Towel, is it possible that, you have sources and you're well aware that night at the bar...
You don't have to convince me. He was with Meredith and Nan Gallagher. I have said from the beginning, where did she come from? And why would Meredith, who seems like a very attractive, very, very smart, very professional young woman, want to get involved with a guy who's in jail? Like she absolutely, like, I'm going to say targeted. She wooed him from a jail cell.
Do you know how they got to see?
No time is the man more vulnerable than when he's in jail.
Do you know how they got to CF McCarthy's that night? Did you ever?
No, tell me.
Oh, somebody's parents gave them a gift certificate to CF McCarthy's for Christmas.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It wasn't Aiden's family. Mm-hmm. Now, then you wonder, what about over at Hillsides? What about that group of guys? Now, you might be thinking to yourself, is it possible that someone involved in all this was around Canton, like way back in the day? Maybe they even like knew someone who lived around John O'Keefe, like, you know, and maybe their parents used to spend a lot of time in Canton. So now obviously that group of men at the bar, they may have recognized this person and been like, oh, what's going on there? So anyway, notwithstanding that, that group of men separate, but you got this situation where this person who was around Canton before John O'Keefe died is all of a sudden back around in Canton. Maybe they got to keep things on the DL a little bit, you know what I'm talking about? Because they don't want to be seen. You know, they got to have good cover if they're back, of course. And then they go over to CF McCarthy's from Hillside. I believe that was the order of events. And randomly, someone with a cell phone is recording outside who claimed to be pro Karen Reed and pro Aiden at that time, a cell phone video we've never seen.
Right.
And then charges are brought, and only because of Judge Doolin, if I recall, I think was it Judge Doolin who heard the bail revocation motion after the window shop incident? Did he say, like, you're pushing it right to the line, or was that a different judge?
Was it Krupp? I don't remember. Somebody in the chat might remember.
Krupp. It was an older judge, but he said one of the judges after the window shop incident may have actually realized, like, what was going on, because he would not
revoke his bail
in the Superior Court. Yeah, it was Doolin. He was like, you're pushing it, Mr. Carney. And I think it was Judge Doolin being like, do you not realize that they're setting you up? Like, he didn't say it, but the way he looked that day was like, you know, tighten up. Tighten the ship up.
I don't know. Was it Sisitsky? I don't remember.
It might have. I really forget. It was an older
the window
judge.
Intimidation case, right? Which was bogus from the beginning.
Yeah, and
but
so
again, involving Chris Albert, you know.
Not just that, but if you think about it, it's a pattern here. Get people into Aiden and Karen's life, lull them into the sense that they're allies, and then run the op long enough to either get derogatory information, get their lawyers to talk to them, which is the worst situation, or, like in some cases, actually get into their personal lives, obtain everything you need against them, conventional spying at this point, and then when you need to pull the asset, it's called an exfil. You burn. It's like a burn. It's like when you're mad at the asset, it's called a burn notice. You punish the asset. When you're protecting the asset, it's called an exfil. You pull them out and get them somewhere where they're safe. But listen, in this case, a lot of times in intel work, the risk is violence. No, in this case, it's all lawfare. If they're going to get you and like whatever, they're going to get you through the courts. And that's why when they pull their assets out, and that goes for both sides. Like Aiden's lawyers are good, Karen's lawyers are good. They know what these people did. So when the assets get pulled out, where do they go? Florida. You know how hard it is to get someone from Florida to here?
You mean extradition wise?
They will do it. They'll do it. But getting a governor's warrant for extradition on a state charge out of Florida, you better have like beaten an elderly person or they're not signing that.
Huh. Wow, that was just from one super chat about Greg Connor. All right, hang on. Jenk said Brennan made trial errors intentionally. Grant provides the reason why. Thanks. We'll get into that another time. @4Dread says great interview. Love when Grant lights it up and gets going on a Grant rant. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see a dismissal off that Scanlon wiretap. The judge was very focused on this, in my opinion. Yeah, that might be his way out, kind of, right? Not using it, knowing they had no jurisdiction to even charge him on the Scanlon wiretap, and then using that during the grand jury. Inflammatory, prejudicial, not telling the grand jury to disregard it. Best live ever. Thank you, Dumpster. Dumpster, Juice, YouTube, # Team Towel. Emily C wants to know who you endorse for DA.
Well, so I've never said the words endorsement. I'm a reporter, so I strongly believe Adam Deitch is the best candidate for Norfolk DA and should win. My prediction is he will win. But as a reporter, no, I don't do endorsements. I'm not the Boston Globe. I just think he's the best man for the job, and I think he's going to win.
You think? I hope he wins. If enough people get out and vote. I'm so fascinated. Says Cupcake Eating Leonard. This is freaking amazing. Mind blown. These people are a cult. Thank you to 878. So BPI says, Grant, question. Oh, I don't know about that. That guy. I don't want to talk about that guy. At Fort Dread, you can't tell me Grant Smith Ellis isn't dropping warning shots that certain individuals would only know. Oh, I know. I can see the people in the chat who know, and I can see who knows. And you're right. Kelly says, please keep yourself safe, Grant. People don't like the truth coming out. Look at Josie Lou coming in here with 100. Funny how Brian Higgins is the only one with a proffer, which granted him immunity and happens to also be the only Fed and not included on the hostage video. And also the only one outside of Jen McCabe's reign. The odds, nobody else has immunity. I don't know if that proffer ever happened. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, so actually, there's one more thing I wanted to tell you. I'm so glad Josie Lou, and God bless you. That's such a kind super chat to Attorney Little. Josie Lou's wonderful shows us great insights on Twitter. So one thing you mentioned earlier that I want to correct. So from the IA interviews with Brian Tully and John Fanning, what you're going to find out is not that Brian Tully and whatever had to sign NDAs to look at the Proctorgate material. They did. It was actually Laura McLaughlin who was instructed by the feds to hold the documents and read only certain Proctorgate texts to Tully, so Tully could do his IA investigation so the state police could fire Proctor. If you think about it from that perspective, and I may need a quick refresher as to what the end of Josie's comment was, because I wanted to tie that into her.
Nobody else has immunity.
Oh, yes. Okay. So if you think about that, what you're going to find there is that a proffer session did occur at some point prior to that NDA being signed and Laura McLaughlin giving those text messages over. But a federal proffer there, and I don't know how much you know about this, Attorney Little. I'm not an expert on it. I know a little about it. There's two types of federal proffers. One is a federal proffer with the FBI. One is a federal proffer with the FBI and the DOJ. They're both proffers, but one has a lot more immunity that will come with it than the other. A proffer session, now there's case law on this out of New York. It's fascinating, federal proffers. What it basically is you saying, it's like a queen for a day interview is what it's called. You can give information, and that specific information cannot later be used against you, but it can be used for what's called parallel reconstruction, where if that information leads to derivative information, that information can be used against you to charge you. It's not use or transactional immunity. It is neither. It is a completely different standard for immunity. So a lot of people, and we rightfully, because it's all very privileged, don't have any idea what this interaction was that led to immunity. I would guess it is the type of immunity that comes with a limited proffer, aka everything you say here will not be introduced against you at trial. But if you lie, we will, like this deal's void. And also, we reserve the right to investigate you on the basis of what you say. And if we find out anything that is outside what you told us and confirms that you committed a crime, even if you told us about it, we're going to charge you. I think that happened. And my further opinion is that for whatever reason, there was another set of federal investigations up until the spring, April of 2026, where all these guys, all of them, were interviewed again about Birchmore, about John O'Keefe, about Karen, about Turtle Boy. How do I know this? Because in the Matthew Farwell moving papers, heavily redacted though they are, the U.S. attorney and Farwell, or one of them recently, said that the most recent law enforcement investigatory interviews, and I'm not talking about the DOJ law enforcement interviewing people, I'm talking about law enforcement personnel being investigated by the feds. The most recent one was April of 2026. So somebody's going to,
in Farwell papers.
Somebody's rolling here. I don't know who's going to roll. I don't imagine it's going to be Higgins. I think it's going to be Garino. My opinion is...
Talk about Garino's car accident. He was almost killed in a car accident. A lot of people think that wasn't an accident.
Yeah, so I don't know nothing about nothing. But it does strike me as a little bit odd that Nick Garino, right after people start realizing, like the fall of 2023, what's going on, Nick Carino's assigned to do a detail westbound just short of exit 123 on the Pike. If you know that area, it's very dangerous. You're coming through Newton. There is no emergency lane on the right or the left until you get to exit 123. There's a few pull-offs in Newton, but until you get to exit 123 at the Watertown ramp, which, by the way, backs up onto the highway even after they change the traffic configuration there, you must understand, you have cars going like 70 miles an hour on the far left lane, then 65 in the middle, then fully stopped on the right lane, hugging a 30-foot concrete wall that goes up as a sound barrier on the highway in the slow lane with no emergency lane. Garino was there on a detail, and a drunk driver out of nowhere slams into him. He lives, but I assure you, ever since that moment, he has been very concerned. I've never talked to him, but it strikes me that perhaps Nick Carino would be the most viable cooperating witness because he handled the Birchmore extraction. He handled some of the files in the Karen Reed case. And frankly, he probably knows where the bodies are buried. And what the fuck does he owe anyone? They tried to take him out. If that wasn't an accident, he would be a great cooperating witness. I would have flipped him day one. They got to keep him alive, though.
Thank you, Aunt BB. OMG, I have so many questions going through my head. We probably need Grant part 2. So wicked smart for having Grant on. Thanks, Aunt BB. She's amazing. I'm gonna not let Grant answer this question about Judge Cannoni because we don't want to say anything that could or may disparage a sitting judge in Norfolk County. Wouldn't be good for him. Wouldn't be good for me. But her question is, how far does Grant think that Judge Cannoni is involved? Allegedly. And so we're gonna pass right by that question. But thank you so much. Amnesia says this is one of the best streams ever. Thank you both. Thank you. Sarah says lunch money for my favorites. Oh, thank you, Grant. I'll be sending you some lunch money as soon as we're done. Please ask Grant, what does he think was in the duffel bag? Says Aunt BB.
So are we talking
Brian
about like
duffel bag.
Are we talking about 1:30 a.m. on the morning of 1/29/2022 at the Canton PD parking lot?
I think so. Is that the one, Aunt BB, you're talking about? The one that we see Brian Higgins moving in the Canton PD parking lot from car to car?
Yeah, and the timeline's very important because, and just so I think folks will benefit from this, Brian Higgins, ostensibly, according to his own testimony, goes from Fairview Road in a snowstorm to where he had an office, an undercover office, basically. He was on a joint task force. Do you understand Brian Higgins was an undercover ATF agent? So when you're an undercover what you're assigned is a local cop, a local detective, a state police detective, and then 2 FBI agents. That's how it works. Don't ask too many questions. Not you, Attorney Little, but
but he told us that that was the reason he got rid of his phone, because he was working undercover and because some CI got his number, or somebody got his number, and he thought he was a target, so he had to destroy his phone.
Yeah, but for our purposes, joint operational task forces. People know what the JTTF is, the BRICS, the Boston Regional Intelligence Center, the Joint Terrorism Task Force. People don't know as much about like the Cape Cod DEA task force, but that is a thing. You need to, or like ATF task forces, you got to have every assigned local, state, and federal handlers and an AUSA. So that means Brian Higgins, when he was working at the Canton PD, that he didn't have an office there because he was friends with Ken Berkowitz, although I'm sure they had a friendship. He had an office there because that was the point. They were running point on the joint task force out of Canton, which is a big drug trafficking hub. So in turn, you got to think a little bit about what Brian Higgins claims he did. He went back to the Canton PD right from 34 Fairview Road in a blizzard to move his work vehicle. We're still not sure what exactly he was doing. That's when the duffel bag comes in. He then goes back to his home, which is like, I think north of Canton. It's like, I forget where, but it's like 20 miles north or so. He goes back there, spends time there, whatever he got in that duffel bag and whatever, goes to his home, and that maybe Randolph is where he lived or something. And then he comes back down early the next day and spends the whole day, if not going to Fairview first, at the Canton PD with Ken Berkowitz. He's there that whole day.
I don't think he ever went home. He had an office in Canton PD. Why would he go home?
He said he went home because he wanted to sleep. He claims he left the Canton PD in his car, went home, and then came back the next day. West Roxbury, that's what it was. West Roxbury, interesting.
He says he went home, but I don't think he did.
Well, either way, that would make his that's his story. So we don't
Right.
we have the video camera. We know he was at the Canton PD, and removing his story from this and only going on the evidence, we don't know based on physical evidence where he was, Brian Higgins, from like 1:30 or 2 in the morning until he gets back to the Canton PD. He goes somewhere.
Right. I'm sure there's a couch in that Canton PD that he could have slept on. Like he went home. He says he had a couple more drinks and he had something
Correct.
to eat, and he that's when he was butt dialing back and forth with Brian Higgins.
That's right. Right after, so there is footage of him driving a car away from the Canton PD. Right. That's the last time I think we see him on camera. Okay, but that doesn't mean anything. We know how these folks edit footage
Right.
and all that. But what I'll say is, at 2:40 whatever, I don't remember the exact time, we get the infamous butt dial. So right after Higgins has gone from at 34 Fairview, between 12:30 and 1:30, we know he leaves there because he gets to the Canton PD between 1:30 and 2. It's only like 5-10 minutes away. It's a snowstorm, still 5-10 minutes away. He's there on camera and then drives away. And within an hour, he's not at home sleeping. He couldn't have said that. He was too smart. He had to say he had some drinks and food because he knew there was a call record. So he's like, oh, yeah, I was awake. I don't remember because they must have butt dialed me. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. They had 6 hours to come up with that plan. 6 hours. They came up with it in 2 hours. In my opinion, they came up with the plan in 2 hours. And that's why, if you think about it, I think it makes perfect sense the way things played out between 4 and 5 a.m. And it also explains why there's this weird incongruity in when Matt McCabe says he left his home. He says the trigger event for him leaving his home to go to Fairview was a 5:35 a.m. call from Jen McCabe. No way. There's dash cam footage that shows him there at like 5:37. So he left earlier. Like, this whole thing's weird. Matt McCabe, by the way, I just if you wouldn't mind,
sure, go ahead.
Here. Matt McCabe is a defense contractor who runs a company called Elevate. They have tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in federal contracts. You can find it in the public federal contractor database. They have set up fusion centers. And I don't know if you know what this is. These are intelligence, like centralizing communication centers. They arose after 9/11, so our disparate intelligence community bodies wouldn't run into the information sharing problem that led to 9/11. So all of our intelligence flows through centralized fusion centers. Furthermore, Matt McCabe and his company, which is also run by his brother and someone else, it's called Elevate something. That company has a contract with something called the 805th Shadow Squadron at Ellis. That Air Force unit in particular works on something called kill chain latency. What that means is, think about when you're playing a video game. You ever heard of lag? You might see the server. Okay, so the amount of time between when you push a key and when your character does something. What's happening there is you're pushing a key on the computer. It's uploading that keystroke to a remote server. The remote server is telling the video game to do it. Like, generally, if we're playing online, I want to talk about online. You only have ping when you're online. So when you fire a missile from a remote controlled drone, or when you launch a missile, okay, think about what you're doing. You have to push a button that releases a missile, especially if it's what's called a loitering munition. So you have a drone, an unmanned drone, flying over an enemy target, and you need to tell the drone when to drop the bomb. You need to reduce the amount of time that it takes your push of the button to get to that remote drone, and you don't have the benefit of fiber optics. That's what he's working on. Excuse me? This random man who lives in Canton has all this money and security clearances to work on kill chain latency with the Air Force and fusion centers for Congress, and nobody's talked about this the whole time? No way. No way. That's the unknown variable here. I don't know what it all leads to, but whatever these folks were, they have these weird esoteric religious practices that involve like voodoo dolls. They hang out in, I'm not
voodoo
dolls
dolls
in particular. Shout out the voodoo dolls. They hang out in weird ways with underage children. They like to drink with them. They call it partying, and they inculcate the children into this groomed atmosphere. And I think it's not just sharing romantic partners. It is they got a taste, and they never got over it for, how did they say it in Dazed and Confused? The character says he loves the high school girls because
Ugh.
he keeps getting older, but they never age. Yeah, welcome to Canton.
Grooming. That's what they're saying. Grooming. What did you ever say? What you thought was in the duffel bag? That was the question. And then I have a hard
Whatever.
stop. So we've already been here for almost like 3
Oh.
hours. Keep going.
I didn't mean to keep you. You're wonderful.
No.
Thank you all. So the duffel bag, short answer, I don't know. Long answer, it explains whatever it is that Brian Higgins did not want questions being asked about during the investigation the next day.
I've been combing the super chats for specific questions for you. I think we got them all. Somebody wants to know about the colloquitis. I don't know if you know anything about the colloquitis.
I think.
Are they as sweet and innocent as we all think they are? I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be. Thanks for your 5.
Short
pesky pirouette.
You're wonderful. I'll give you a short pesky pirouette. Thank you. I'll give you a short answer on this one. I think in Canton, if you don't get chosen to be part of this world, not on a given night, but in general, you develop, let's say, some resentment, and you rightfully might be scared but want to expose these people. And that might explain why when Christina Kolokakis saw Karen being selected that night, she was not pleased. I think Christina Kolokakis wanted to go over to Fairview. That's what I think happened. Now, that explains why they're a little bit weird. But in the second trial, their testimony was important, to put it lightly.
Any final thoughts here before we wrap? Because we absolutely have to do a part 2.
We must have. It was fun. I should tell you, I like energy drinks. When I have one after 1 p.m., I love to talk. Thank you all.
No, I mean, that's amazing. You have so much knowledge. You laid some knowledge on this chat that we did not, we were not ready for. We went in a lot of different rabbit holes, but I do that a lot of times also, like in real time. I'm always falling into rabbit holes all the time. And so I know you had a lot to say, and I'm so glad you had a lot to say because it gives people a lot of perspective. Like, this is not just about Karen Read. Karen Read happened to have the support and the finances to be able to fight back against the corruption. And they never thought that she would be able to. And that's why they said, oh, listen, if she takes the plea, it's over. If not, it's a whole other episode. And now we are on season 3. Season 1, it's not just an episode. It's like going to be an entire mega series after this whole thing is over. Her first trial, her second trial, now the civil cases. Season 4 will be when some other people wind up in handcuffs. Do you think there will ever really be justice for John O'Keefe? Grant?
Yes, I think it's coming, and for Sandra, and for Aiden. And that's, I think, what will lead me into my closing thoughts. So I truly believe that this system works. I believe in this system of government. I believe in this country with all my heart. It doesn't always do the right thing because it's up to us. The cogency of your discourse is the enabling condition of legitimate democratic will formation. In other words, when you talk accurately about what others want to hide, you can hold the system accountable. I've always believed that, and I continue to believe it. I also want to say this. If you enjoyed this commentary or found it helpful, remember the people fighting the battles on the ground right now are Aiden Carney, Karen Read, and others. You can support them. They have fundraisers. I pray that you will consider donating to both. This is not an either-or situation, and anyone who tells you otherwise is a bought and sold lethargic devil attempting to divide and conquer a movement that's exposed a very dangerous apparatus in Norfolk County. Third of all, I heard it said once, it was probably Ted Sorensen, but JFK wrote it in Profiles in Courage. Whenever we stand against the flow of opinion on hotly contested issues, a man, a woman, a towel, or a cupcake does what they must, in spite of the dangers and obstacles and personal pressures, for that is the basis of all human morality. And if you're looking for the people who are actually in this, trying to help, it's those who are sacrificing more than they're gaining. And I'm not just talking about myself. The true mark of benevolence is being willing to sacrifice and not sell out when the chips are on the table. And if you find someone who's done otherwise at any point in time, they'll do it again, and they're waiting for the opportunity to do so. Guard up at all times, have good operational security. Don't steal my words, Kate Peter. Trust but...
Oh, you just broke up right as you were about to say trust but verify. Hold on. Come back to me. Come back, Grant. Hold on. Wait a second.
I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. Don't do background checks on everyone. Have good operational security. Don't assume people who are offering to help you are doing so from a place of goodwill. We're almost at the finish line. Keep the faith. Continue to support.
Oh, you're dropping such pearls of wisdom, and then you just went out again. Hold on. Hold on. We're almost at the finish line, is where you left off. Oh, man. Don't even tell me your internet just cut out. Okay. Wait.
No, they're censoring us, Attorney Little. So God bless
know.
the people doing the work on the ground. Continue to support them. You can find more from me at Towel News, youtube.com/@GrantSmithEllis. God bless all of you. Thank you for the time. Attorney Little, you're great. I can't wait for part 2. We will discuss the nuances of Rule 14, Hybel, Rule 17, and hopefully a hearing about Kate Peter, Ken Mello, and Brian Tully, because that's going to be something that people should sell tickets to.
Oh, are you kidding? Like Judge Frenier did a evidentiary hearing in the Brian Walsh case in which Fanning and Buchanan had to testify. I don't know if you watched it, but it was wild. Like Fanning admitted on the stand to backdating police reports in the Brian Walsh case. The other recent evidentiary hearing that we've seen is the one that was cut short in the Miles King case, where Lally was on the stand, Crub pulled the plug on it, and now coming back to your TV near you on, I think, August 17th, August 27th, I forget the date, Lally's going to have to get back on the stand, get back on Rosemary Scapicchio's barbecue, because it's going to be fire. Thank you so much for coming. Everyone go sub up to Grant. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully Proctor too at that hearing, which I will be enthused to hear you about. And I just saw all the comments. I clicked over the chat. I have to say this. This movement happened because of all of you. The fact that we're here is because they don't let them divide and conquer you. Support each other, support the people who need help, keep an eye out for the subversives, and change the world. Remember, they want to disrupt, disorganize, and destroy you. Don't let it happen. Flip the tables, do it to them. Attorney Little, thank you so much.
Thank you. It almost happened to you, Grant, but you saw your way out of it, and we're very happy that you did.
See you guys soon.
All right, you guys. Oops. Wow. I knew he had a lot to say, so I was ready for it. I think that was an amazing conversation. Everyone get over and subscribe to him on Grant Smith Ellis at on YouTube, and also on, if you choose to wait on the cesspool of Twitter. I got a lot of people to thank, a lot of super chats, so hang tight, because we're gonna thank some people. On Venmo, Serena, thank you so much. Well, let's see first. Hold on one second. Allie said, I think Grant is correct about it. Started when Jen McCabe said, you're coming with me. Brian Albert and Brian Higgins plan to take John then and there. Thanks for this interview, Melanie. Stella, thank you for your very generous Venmo. I will be sharing with Grant, so don't you worry about it. We're going to get him lunch and then some. Betsy, thank you so much. XOXO. Bruce said, I worked for a short period of time for an organization called Servants of the Paraclete. This was a group that housed priests that had committed some of the most atrocious things. I know exactly how you feel. Yes. Was it in Pennsylvania? Because they had a pedo camp in Pennsylvania for the priests where they would hide them for a little while until they would, rehabilitate them and then let them out. So I know what you're talking about. If it's the one in Pennsylvania, I don't think they can be rehabilitated, in my personal opinion, but that's just me. Judy, thank you. She said it's been for being awesome. Love from Cape Cod. Serena said, interesting. Julie was texting John to come to the bar, and then she storms out claiming a migraine when he shows up with Karen. Yep. Just yep. Also, thank you to Jill says for a doobie. I'm still laughing. That was on Cash App. Thank you very much. And then we have some more. Are you guys blown away by some of the stuff? Some of it, a lot of people thought it was tinfoil hat type stuff, but then when you see it weaved into a cohesive timeline and story and learn more about the lore. Listen, I'm not from Massachusetts, right? I'm a New Yorker, born and bred, been here, had my practice here for over 30 years. And so having someone who's born and bred Massachusetts, like Grant is, really kind of ties all of the lore together. Let me know what you think about that. Tom CPU, I just want to let you know that I timed you out by accident when I was trying to time out somebody who was right underneath you. So it is not personal if you've even noticed it. Here we go. Dancing Quinn says, Grant, you're amazing. Can we talk about connections between people like Bev, Gilday, Kerry, Meredith, and what is he thinking regarding the upcoming election, Adam Deitch? Well, we got to that with Adam Deitch. Some of the stuff I don't really want him to talk about because, I fear for everyone's safety. And now that he's turned on the people that tried to recruit him and did recruit him for a little while, I heard Kate Peter on that same interview last night with Young Jerks. Has anybody watched it? She calls him mentally ill, actually. She actually calls him mentally ill because she's trying to discredit him and she's trying to get people to not believe a word that he says. And he's very open about the fact that he's autistic. He's on the spectrum. His mind moves a mile a minute and he's a genius. He told me off stage that I said, were you diagnosed as a child? And he said, no, I wasn't diagnosed until I was an adult. People just thought I was odd when I was growing up. And he explained it. He's also had, some stomach surgeries and things like that. So he is disabled for that. But he's wicked smart. Maddox said, can the powers that be tip the DA election? A lot of people don't believe in election fraud. You guys can tell me in the chat and in the comments what you think. Redondo Beach on Route 95, 100% on Route 95. Route clean off, Fent 3 years. I know. Thanks for being here for 10 months, Redondo Beach. Comer K says this is one of the best shows I've watched in a long time. Says we're wonderful. Thank you for your 10. Dancing Quinn says, thank you, Melon. Thanks so much, Grant. I could listen for days. Please stay safe. And maybe try and keep Proctor's uncle out of your mom's house. Trust no one. I'll be subbing up today. Genie Dreamer, Grant, I'm bringing Karen in. Was it because Higgy fell in love and wanted her? Seems like a lot of motives lined up for the Higgins, Alberts, and McCabe's. I mean, a lot of theories there. Thanks, Jeannie. Jersey Queen, thank you so much. Very much. Says this is the interview of the year. No, decade. Steph says, I've been SA from 9 to 6. I'm so sorry. I read this. I had this up on the screen earlier. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I am so sorry. And she says at 42, I'm still bullied and treated bad. We love you here, Steph, Marshall. So everyone give Steph Marshall a little love because she deserves it. Phil DeCesar is off topic. Grant, did you know that Taylor Swift used to babysit Jeff Jarrett's children back in the day? I don't know who Jeff Jarrett is. Phil DeCesar, but thank you for your 10. Erin says they had no idea about the Curran Beatty connection with the daughter, and John was friends with this guy, and Karen called John a pervert. Karen said in one of her interviews that John told her that there was like a huge swinger community in Canton on one of their first dates. So I always thought maybe that was why she called him a pervert, because he didn't come home. He never wouldn't come home. Maybe he got caught up in some of that. That's what I kind of thought. Jump and shout. Thank you. This was great. Can we have part 2? Also hit the like button and hype it too. You can't hype it until it's over. You get 2 hypes a week. So use them wisely. Anna Johnson, thanks for your 5. She says, I'm a cupcake towel. DK, do we get CLE credits on history class credits today? Wow. So much information. Thank you, Grant. I know from watching Grant that he can go off on tangents. And so I just felt like I could just keep circling him back on topic. But sometimes he would go on a tangent and I found it so interesting that I just let him go. And then somebody in the chat was like, stop cutting him off. I'm like, listen, I got a time crunch here. So we'll go further next time. And you guys can send me questions in advance. Thanks for Kimberly for being here for 14 months. Jenny Lulu says the collab we needed. You two are brilliant. Oh, thank you for being here for 19 months. Speak, Grant, said Maria. Give you 10. And Robin said this was amazing. Grant, make it make sense. I live with all my heart. Mel, thank you, Robin. Let's see what else you guys are saying in the chat. Miss K, funny, when people come up with a plausible variable, it is evident that people will try to discredit by calling him conspiracy theorist. Science states it's a variable, right? Connie was glued to her phone the whole time. What a great interview. Mind blown. Thank you so much, Brittany, for just being an amazing mod and all around excellent, amazing person. Yeah, I know, right? Time management is the thing when streaming. Thank you, Glare, for tuning in. And I saw that you had Grant on the other night for Aiden's fundraiser, and I watched the whole entire thing. And I tried to talk about some other different stuff tonight so that we wouldn't cover the same. So everyone, please go over and watch the Glare stream from Sunday night. It was the Aiden fundraiser stream, and Grant has I think he was on for like two hours with you, right? Dancing Quinn is so worried about the election. She says everything is so fixed there. Old enough to know, says Melanie, you brought Grant mainstream. Listen, he's doing war coverage like around the clock, and it's amazing. And I knew because it happened on Glaire's stream the other night that he's got some alert on his phone for when bombs are dropped, and he's like, "Uh-oh." And I'm like, "What was that?" I'm thinking. And he said, "There's just been a bombing." So, I mean, he's on top of it. And even kindergarten. Oh, you changed your name to kindergarten. Kindergarten. Said his tangents were literally the best today. Everyone hype, and share the video. Thank you. And Tone on his own says Grant explains so much of why this all feels so wrong. And I think he, at the end, reminded everybody why we're here. You can't support Aiden and Karen at the same time. And anybody who is trying to divide now was probably sent in here to do so. Into here, and I don't mean here, into my chat, because we don't let them in to the chat because my mods are very protective. I'm talking about into the community. Some of us saw it right away. Some people, it took a little longer to see. RN2 Mom says that the 3 hours felt like 30 minutes. Yeah. And also you can see why once Alessi was brought onto the team, right, on Karen Reed's team, they were never going to convict her. I mean, Alessi is a super genius, right? He doesn't sleep. We've had many interviews with him and watched many interviews with him. And he focused. He's a genius. Justice for Teresa says it's amazing what people will say to protect themselves. Tiffany Bob said, Mel did a brilliant job with Grant. I'm so thankful. I had no plan. I had zero plan. I had no questions written down. Because I knew that we were just going to wander through. You know, not all who wander are lost, my friends. Not all who wander are lost. And sometimes a lot can be accomplished more so than having questions written down. And then it just feels too scripted to me. I need prayers. Biopsy left, para-aortic, lymph node 723. Prayers up for Kim as a ladybug. We are with you on your journey. We are all praying for you. And Jane and everyone else is going to have to watch this stream 2 or 3 times, maybe on half speed, because Grant and I both speak really quickly. And so there was a lot. It was a lot. Thank you to Josie. You're an amazing supporter. He's amazing. You're very gracious, elegant. It was perfect. Thank you so much. And Glare knows too. He's like, Grande's been solid. You said it to him the other night. You're like, listen, even when you were on the other side, I always liked you. I saw something in you that I liked. And I don't know if he has even had his IQ tested. Columbo Wannabe said, I'm interested in his IQ. I think it's way higher than anyone could imagine. Listen, and he's doing really, really, really good work. And I think for him, I think maybe when he was, brainwashed by these people in this psyop or whatever you want to call it, and they recruited him into this thing, he lost his way a little bit, And I think if he just drills down and does what he's doing and does it really well on YouTube, he will have an excellent financial future because there's a market for what it is that he's doing. And his market on YouTube could be for him a very great thing. Going to the courthouse isn't necessarily maybe something that he wants to focus. I didn't even talk to him about this, so I don't need to share my thoughts with you, but I just think that if he drills down on what he does, he does it really well. He will have a great YouTube future ahead of him, right? Because this is where all the cool kids hang out. We're here on YouTube. Everybody who was mainstream is now trying to start a YouTube channel. And I don't know, maybe it's too late for some of them. Live streaming is where it's at too, because you get to interact with your chat and you get to, become a community of people who actually chat with each other in the chat without even talking to me, right? You get 3 hypes a week. Thank you, David. Michael says she's not doing it for free. You're talking about Kay Peter. You don't think the McCabe's and Alberts and possibly O'Keefe's are paying her? That's what the forensic room is, the mouthpiece. And you know what the thing is that nobody's watching that channel. Nobody's watching that channel. I think they had it set to something like 8 weeks. You had to be subscribed to it to even be in the chat. And I don't even know if the channel had really even been around for 8 weeks, right? Olivia's here. She knows. She says, I love Grant's war coverage. It's been phenomenal. Yeah, he's been doing other stuff a long time in the cannabis community and others. Thank you, Melanie and Grant. So interesting. Thank you, Miss Kay, for tuning in from Australia and for your super chat. Yeah, maybe next time you come with a prepared list of questions. I just wanted to see where the conversation went, right? How are they going to react to today's stream? Who cares? You'll see if there's a lot of noise on Twitter, which I don't always look at. You'll see if they start coming for us, that it means that whatever we said is probably right on the money, because they try and discredit us, just like he said. All of a sudden, something shiny. They try and divert attention from the shit that's really going on. Okay. All right. Blair is having a fundraiser petty for Aiden tomorrow morning with Aiden to roast the dividers. Be there. Okay. What time? We can't just drop that in there and not say. Tell everybody what time. Larry says, I have to watch this over just to digest all of this. Thanks again. It was so enjoyable to watch. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it. And everyone go over and watch Claire's fundraiser in the morning. And best 3 hours on YouTube in years. Oh, thanks, Scott. 25 years on the job. 9 a.m. in place of the bus stop live, says Claire. 9 a.m. tomorrow. All right, good. Good. Everyone be there. His YouTube is Grant Smith Ellis. I'll link everything below. Yeah, and he dressed up in a suit for me and a tie that Tom CPU gave him. And he was wearing Attorney Melanie Little. I went to Cancun with Attorney Melanie Little merch today, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was a lot of fun, but I do have to go because, oh, thank you, Loopy, for coming in with your cheap $2. That's so sweet of you. I have a date with my boyfriend, Dave Matthews, tonight. So, and it is raining, which is not a good thing because it's an outdoor show. Thank you guys. Thank you, the moderators, because they're doing the Lord's work out there every single day for me. Every single day, keeping it a safe place to be. And thank you all for joining me for 3 hours today. And stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. Above all, stay safe. And don't believe everything you read on the internet. Go on over. I know I specifically didn't want to ask him about that particular plant because there's some, it's being just, there's some things we can't talk about on the air. I love you guys. Stay safe and have the greatest night. And if there's anybody I forgot to thank, I'm sorry, but I will thank you on the next stream. So peace out. It's the weather is not good. I'm kind of hoping maybe they postpone it to another night, because the thing about Jones Beach, if you know, Jones Beach Theater is built literally on the water. And when the water rises, the entire stadium venue becomes flooded. Load in and load out for the guys who are doing the roadies is a pain in the ass. They have to build contraptions, roll things above the water. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah, get out the hunter boots. Good idea. All right, you guys, I will see you real soon, because if I don't see you soon, I'm going to die. Peace out, my friends. Thanks for listening today. Peace.